Hello again, friends! And you are our friends, and it's your favorite good cop, bad cop show, or maybe it's cop and a half, I'm not sure. Welcome back to another edition of Jim Cornette's Drive Thru right here on another beautiful day. Somewhere it's beautiful here. It may not be by the time you hear this. I'm your host, the great Brian Last, and we're going to get through this today, folks. Here he is, the leader of the cult of Cornette, Mr. Jim Cornette.
My foot may cop a feel up your ass there, pal.
Woo! What is this, a party of puffies? What's going on over here?
Oh, I'm all right now, but last week I was in rough shape. You know, I tell you, hey. No, we're a day and some late recording this, folks, and I'll take the heat for this because my birthday week was going well. Had a wonderful birthday day. Got so many well wishes and well tweets from the cult of Cornette, and got a nice cake, and I even got the cake early, as a matter of fact, and got a Papa Murphy's take and bake pizza, my favorite, with double sausage, bacon, ground beef, green peppers and onions, and extra cheese. That was wonderful. Then I pressed my luck, Brian, because, I've never tried one of their calzones. So
calzone.
I got
You don't pronounce the E, calzone.
Well, you don't pronounce the E. I pronounce the E.
No, I mean, you're not supposed to. Not that you do. You're not supposed
Nobody has told me every time I order a calzone, they just go right ahead and give it to me.
Well, you just said you haven't ordered one in years, so you obviously don't know what's going on.
No, Stacy has them. Stacy gets them, but I don't get them because I like the pizza. But see, I was going for a double header this week. So Tuesday, I was going to have the pizza on my birthday, and Wednesday, I was going to have the calzone. But nevertheless, whatever you call it, I'm not having another one because I woke up the next morning after that at just violently ill. There was something going on with that calzone. It was a calzone. It wasn't a calzone. It was a calzone because there was some amoebas in there. And it's been rough. It's been rough. I won't go into details for the sake of the listeners, but I've had a bad 24 hours. And some people had, he's sick, but I'm getting better, baby. I'm coming back. I'm going to thwart you people yet that wish my early demise. Me, a senior citizen here in my own home, puking and pooping and sweating about. But I'm back, baby.
It was like a night at Vince's.
Oh, come on now.
That's what the cleanup was like the next morning.
Boy, they had to get the hazmat suits and everything, didn't they, to go in there? And he's so cleanly. I don't understand. But nevertheless, I'm feeling better. We're gonna try to get through this today. I might not have the normal energy level, but by the way, speaking of health, something has come across the human affairs desk, Brian. So I thought I'd bring this up now on the first show after we heard about it. Ken Cantrell.
He's having an affair?
No.
With who? Human affairs. Who is he having an affair with? Ken Cantrell.
The human affairs desk.
With a human?
That's what like my Uncle Dink down at WHOP radio in Hopkinsville, he used to send the shout outs to the sick and the shut-ins. Well, Ken Cantrell, our old friend in Paintsville, Kentucky, is feeling puny, as Christine Jarrett used to say. And he's going to the doctor, and we wanted to wish him good health, get well soon, good wishes, whatever I'm trying to say. I'm still under the influence. And Ken, one of the early tape traders, I mean, going all the way back to the first home VCRs practically, massive wrestling collector, sponsor of the wrestling events in Paintsville over the years, and an accomplishment. He was on the Paintsville Volunteer Fire Department for years, despite being a convicted arsonist. How about that?
He's a convicted. Oh, why would you say this about this poor man? He's already having an affair. Now you're already saying he's starting fires? Him and his mistress starting fires all over the place?
No, Lisa and he have been married for a number of years now. They're very devoted. But no, that's what I used to say about him on the promos. When Smoky Mountain would come to Paintsville, the sponsors We're the volunteer fire department. And I would be running down what a crummy town it was. And I'd say, even that no good Ken Cantrell on the volunteer fire department, he's a convicted arsonist. And people around town would start, hey, Ken, you're an arsonist. But anyway, I hope he feels better soon, because we need...
That's something you want to hear around town?
Well, you know, they were in a jocular fashion. They were saying those things. But anyway, feel better, Ken.
Feel better. You know, years ago in the 90s, when you had no time, I was trying to get my hands on some early Freebird stuff, and I asked you who I should talk to. And you said, well, I have everything, but I don't have the time. Ken Cantrell.
Yes.
Would have it because he was a major Freebirds fan. And I got in touch with him, and he had all the early Georgia stuff, compilations of it, great stuff. And a really nice guy, so hopefully he gets better.
Well, he can't get any worse.
Well, feel better, I guess. Feel better.
Yeah,
Ken.
no, I understand they're going to have to do surgery and remove his head out of his ass, and he'll be fine.
And I hope your wife doesn't find out about the affair or the fire.
Oh, come on now.
The fire and the affair. That's a good
Would it
book.
have been better if I'd have said human relations desk? And also some news from here in Kentucky. And by the way, what did I say about that I-75 shooter down there in Laurel County that he was in the Daniel Boone National Forest on foot, and they hadn't found him in like 10 or 11 days or whatever, however long it was. I said, there is no way, because he abandoned his car apparently, and he may have had guns, but he abandoned at least the big one he was using. And one would imagine at that kind of getaway, he wasn't prepared for living in the woods. But nevertheless, I said, unless he popped up in the next couple of days trying to get the fuck out of town, he's up there, he's shot himself, or he's fallen in a ravine or whatever. And son of a gun, what are you laughing?
You said it so much more concisely and completely right. You're like, oh, he's dead in the woods. Like, yeah. You just said it like it was a fact, like you may have done it.
No, I didn't have anything to do with it. I wasn't even there. But apparently some fucking... Now listen to this. They've had law enforcement teams, state police, local officials. I don't know who all they got apparently combing these. God, I don't know how. You might want to Google how big the Daniel Boone National Forest is, for fuck's sake. 100,000 acres, whatever. And they needed to use machetes, right, to get in there. And this couple, I guess, who were live streaming on their fucking cell phone, were wandering around in the woods. Oh, look, there he is. But now they did the DNA test and they said it's inconclusive. You found a fucking guy dead. He's been dead for a little bit less than a time, and they've been looking for this fucking guy in the middle of goddamn Daniel Boone National Forest. Nobody else has been reported missing. How can the DNA be inconclusive?
He had a note on him that said, it's not me.
Well, there you go. A deathbed denial.
By the way, the Daniel Boone National Forest includes 708,000 acres of federally owned land within a 2,100,000 acre proclamation boundary. The name of the forest was changed in 1966 to honor Daniel Boone.
Well, there you go. So that's a big-ass place to be looking around, or a big-ass place to be out on foot in if you're not highly prepared. This guy apparently wasn't Rambo.
Do you remember what the original name was of the forest?
I do not.
The Cumberland National Forest.
Okay, that makes sense because it encompasses the area of the Cumberland Gap, which, as every small school child knows, is the path that Daniel Boone took to blaze the trail into old Kentuck.
Well, we've spoken about Ken Cantrell and Ken Tuck. This is
here. I've got another.
So far.
I got another Kentucky piece of news.
Okay.
Now that they've calmed the I-75 shooter down, did you hear what happened down in Letcher County?
Letcher County? I've never even heard of Letcher County.
Letcher County, that's all the way down there. I think it's on the border of Western Virginia, right there near the corner of West Virginia. But apparently, the judge just got shot by the sheriff inside the courthouse in his own chambers. Boom, graveyard dead. Sheriff being charged with first-degree murder. They had an argument, is the only details they've been able to come up with. But they did announce there's no threat to the public. Now that the sheriff is in jail because he's a murderer, I guess. They didn't finish that sentence, but can you believe that?
He's going to be waiting for trial for a long time. They have to find a new judge.
Yeah. Fuck. This is some Hatfield and McCoy shit. I'm telling you, that's the down there in Eastern Kentucky. They're fun that way.
Yeah, that's right. In your part of Kentucky, the police just shoot the civilians, not the court staff.
For heaven's sake. But what's going on up here in New Jersey, Brian?
Everything's nice and normal up here.
You got no sheriffs murdering people. You've got no highway shooters. You've got no...
There was a big thing this past week because one of the 2-lane areas was closed down for repaving. They repaved all the roads to make everything nice and smooth, but it caused some traffic for a day or two, so a lot of people were up in arms.
Well, that's terrible. Well, they ought to be up in other people's arms. It would be difficult to hold yourself up with your arms. I sound like Groucho Marx now.
Yeah, my gardener no-showed for a week because of it. He said, I can't get to your house.
Damn his eyes.
The gardener's next door. How come he got to that house? Well, he got in before they stopped everyone. Well, whatever. So that's the exciting world of New Jersey, ladies and gentlemen.
They close our fucking bridges here all the time with almost no notice back and forth. That's you're just talking about minor inconveniences. You know what a minor inconvenience is going to be, Brian?
No, I do not know this. No.
A minor inconvenience is going to be if you don't take advantage, you being the royal you out there in podcast land, of the big holiday sale at JimCornette.com beginning Saturday, October 5th at noon Eastern. If you don't take advantage of that, that's going to be a minor inconvenience. And the longer you wait, the bigger it's going to be until finally around about Thanksgiving time, panic is going to set in. You're going to be running around like a chicken with its head cut off. Your head's going to be on fire. You're going to be screaming in the streets. Oh, my God. So don't wait until you work yourself up into a frenzy like that and jump in right at the start. As I've mentioned, the brand new and final Jim Cornette action figure variant will go on sale. If you go to JimCornette.com, right now you can see a photo and get all the information right on the front page there. There's a big banner, the man in white. And somebody has already tweeted to me that I do go perfectly with both of the Midnight Express action figure sets or the Heavenly Body set in this white outfit with white tennis racket, black shirt, and red tie. You can also customize any color in my rainbow wardrobe for you customizers out there. And as we mentioned, the best thing of all, because of Hotchkiss Featherbottom's concept that he calls a sale, where you get a product for less than its normal retail price, it's going to sweep the marketing world. If you buy any of the Midnight Express or Heavenly Bodies tag team sets or 4-pack, you get the final Jim Cornette variant at only half price, $24.95, and they come autographed. I'm telling you, Featherbottom is outdoing himself, Brian. You scoff, but he's got a lot of marketing ideas.
There's a lot I'm scoffing at. And of course, we're burying the lead here, ladies and gentlemen. These are the first Jim Cornette action figures. You can get a Sharpie and you could draw all over and write the worst things possible.
Oh, come on
about
now.
Jim Cornette. You could point right to his face and say things and then point right up to the person you're talking about. Or maybe you're just on drugs and you want psychedelic Jim Cornette. This is your only chance to make a tie-dyed jacket for a Jim Cornette figure.
Well, and you're going to
and then write, kick me, and this guy's a dick.
You were saying that on the last show, and you're going to get this to be a thing here where people are drawing phallic symbols, reaching upon my face and saying nasty things about me. And I absolutely forbid anybody to get one of these white action figures, especially at half price if you buy one of the tag team sets, and do dirty things to it and then tweet pictures of it or whatever. I forbid you to do those things.
And if they're half price, get two. It's the price of one. And then you could also fuck with the face. Facial hair. Fuck with the glasses. Do all sort of dyed hair. Maybe weasel hair. Who knows? You could do anything you want. This is your chance to fuck Jim up for a good cause. What was the cause?
There's no reason.
There's no reason needed. There's no reason needed, ladies and gentlemen. You've been waiting years since seeing this guy yell at you about Yokozuna to write "fuck you" on his own action figure. This is your chance.
There is no cause or reason to be doing all these things that you're talking about. And also, I'll have you know, the thank you, fuck you, bye t-shirt after a couple of years on hiatus is coming back for the Christmas season for a limited time only. You can get those also. And all the other fine products and merchandise and collectibles and DVDs and books and pictures and Cult of Cornette gift certificates and more. Saturday, October 5th, noon Eastern is the time when the big final variant goes on sale, as well as the t-shirts in addition to all our other stuff. And do not make me look like a Bret Hart caricature on a chalkboard in the middle of a goddamn rec center somewhere in Scranton. He used to be quite profane with some of the cartoons he would do of people. I still have one that Lawler did of me one time.
We got to send him a couple of these figures to draw on.
Well, that's all right. He's doing well. He can buy them at half price. But Lawler did a caricature of me one time. We're sitting in a locker room in Evansville. There's nothing to do. Obviously, there's no internet, cell phones, all that stuff, and it's Evansville, right? He said, "Hey, let me draw you." He's got a fucking napkin from the concession stand. He's got a big ballpoint pen. He said, "Let me draw you." He said, "Hold still for a second." He did like 2 minutes. He does this thing on this napkin. I can't see it, but I'm sitting there. And he said, "Okay, I'm finished." Because you know what an artist he is. And he turns around and he's drawn a perfect caricature of my hair and head and glasses and nose. And then I have a giant dick and balls hanging underneath.
Oh.
with a jacket and a shirt and a tie underneath the scrotum. It was so artistic, I framed it and kept it to this day.
Oh, that Lawler.
Well, that crazy kid. Anyway, what do you got going on here?
There's not a lot going on. They recently repaved the road, and there was a lot of traffic.
I think you mentioned that. I'm talking about on your program we're supposed to be doing here. I'm supposed to be the one that's out of it and have no energy.
People were up in arms. That's what I'm talking about. But we have lots of things to talk about today, or, on the surface, I would think we do. But we'll see what we're going to talk about. Now, in the midst of your delirium, and I got to hear more than I needed to, I mentioned to you that there was only one thing I thought worthy of your time from Raw, which I thought would A, get us around reviewing the entirety of Raw, but B, actually focus on something I thought was a really strong segment. I built it up pretty big to you. Let's find out what you think.
Well, yeah, and in a roundabout way, you're talking about the Raw from Monday night, September 16th, which opened with "Like Mussolini."
Oh.
I was afraid I'd poopy. But no, the opening, let's just stop it now. The opening segment was our friend CM Punk doing a promo because this thing with he and Drew McIntyre will never be over. But first, they did the thing, and again, they're artistes now, and I think AEW is trying to copy it slightly, where they have the guys at the start of the show walking in the building. It didn't exactly look the same as like when they do it in the WWE, but they did the shot where Punk pulls into the garage in his car, and they have a long single camera shot where he walks all the way through the back, through Gorilla with a game face on. He's focused, and straight through Gorilla out onto the stage and through the curtain. And this time he was slow, he was deliberate, there was no celebration going out there, wasn't firing people up. He gave up the big, and he still had a big entrance, but he gave up the big, I'm excited entrance for the issue because he's fucking highly pissed, right? And he took his time starting because they had the CM Punk chants going and the cheers and blah, blah, blah. And he kind of said what I said at the beginning of the program with, I thwart all you people who wish my demise. He says, even if some of you may not like it, depending on how you feel about it, I've got way more matches in me than some people think. And there was bigger chance at that. And he did a serious promo. And the thing is, at least he bothers to try. This was a promo that could have worked again on territory TV 40 years ago or whatever, when you didn't admit or act like or intimate in any way, shape, or form that this was not a legitimate fucking issue and you hated a guy, right? It was refreshing to see a wrestling promo on a wrestling show. And yes, probably the AEW fans, that small segment of society, will say, oh, everybody knows and this is a work and he did do it. Well, but the thing is, I know it's a work when I go see De Niro in a fucking movie or Pacino or any of those other O's. But I don't expect them to, in the middle of the bank robbery or the dramatic scene or the goddamn big reveal, turn and wink at me to let me know that it's a movie. So he did a promo. He went over his history with Drew McIntyre. It should have been over, but I'm too stubborn. And Drew McIntyre's mistake is not getting the job done. And then he said, he had said he had more matches in him, but he said, how many Hell in a Cell matches do I have left? Honestly, 0. And my sister and my wife asked me not to do this. And the people started rumbling because they thought he was going to back out of it. And then he said, so please allow me to tell you why I'm going to do this. And got a big pop and got the Punk chance. And the only way that this is going to end, it's going to be over, is Hell in a Cell. And he can't promise McIntyre that he'll kill him, because I don't make promises I'm not 100% sure I'm not going to keep. But he promised him that he's going to make him bleed, and you're going to have to kill me. And then he finished up with, I'm prepared for this to be the end of CM Punk. If you're prepared for this to be the end of Drew McIntyre, I'll see you in hell. And it was a straight fucking serious promo to build interest in what is pretty much acknowledged to be their top rivalry of the year. And even if everybody knows, well, they're not really fighting or whatever the fuck, he meant it. And he was the De Niro or the Pacino or the Matsumoto or whatever in the fucking piece. So I know you liked it, but did you think I would like it because of what that I just said that I liked it for?
I thought you would like it because of the change of tone, and it was a necessary change of tone because of the pace and the way they've been doing this whole thing and the injuries and the attacks. I thought it was one of his strongest promos since he's returned. What did you think? I guess it's a minor thing, but it stood out to me. The use of the word kill. That's like one of those words you would never hear under Vince McMahon.
Yeah. And normally they would even tell you not to say that in the territories because, well, nobody believes we're going to kill anybody. But here's the thing. He didn't say he was going to. He loopholed it to where it worked. I can't promise I'm going to kill you because I don't make promises I'm not sure I can keep. But you're going to have to kill me to beat me. Well, and that tells me it sounds like Punk thinks he's going to win. But nobody's going to die, but the word was there. And it just, again, you can be serious on the wrestling program because you're insulting people's intelligence, in my mind, if you go out on the goddamn wrestling show and are unprofessional enough to wink and nod and giggle and do the funny stuff in the middle of what's supposed to be deadly serious. And that's why that the other jackoffs can't draw any money because nobody takes anything seriously except people falling through furniture, which gets old and is miscellaneous people. We don't Wow, who took the best table bump last week in AEW? I don't know, there were 7. But you remember something like this because he was serious and he's a star and it's a big deal. So I liked that. And then Wade Barrett quoted the devil went down to Georgia. I didn't, well, he's from across the pond, but I guess he's been here a number of years, hadn't he?
I guess so. I mean, he worked for Florida Championship Wrestling or NXT, whatever it was, and that's in Florida, so you got to think someone was listening to it.
They're big Charlie Daniels fans down in Florida. Because every once in a while, when the devil was in Georgia, he'd stop down for a vacation in Florida, go to Disney World. Anyway, this is your program.
Well, that was all you watched on Raw, and
yes, it was, and that's why I had a happy birthday.
And again, to summarize, you thought that was a very strong segment.
Yes, I did. I give that one a 10. It was easy to dance to it. It had a good beat.
If you had to place a wager going into it, how good it would be, do you think you would have gotten that correct?
Well, I'll tell you what. I don't know whether I would have gotten that correct, but I will tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, the way that you can get things correct. If you want to bet on the NFL, that's the National Football League. And they play football, from what I understand, and they make touchdowns. And if you want to start out with something simple on betting on a touchdown, then you go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and you make your pick. And if you've got 2 teams playing each other, and you pick which one of those, it doesn't matter, either team, or maybe both teams. You never know what you might do. Bet on which one of them's going to score a touchdown. If they score a touchdown, you win money. What could be easier than that, Brian?
Nothing at all.
Can you bet on field goals?
I would assume so, yes.
What can you bet on extra points after the touchdown?
Possibly, I would assume so, yes.
Can you bet on somebody making an interception?
I assume so, yeah. Are you going somewhere? You could bet on all the things that happen in a football game.
Well, I was about to say, can you bet that those are the only football terms that I know? So I bet you can bet on more things, but I don't know what they are. But folks, right now, if you know your football and you want to make some money, score big with the DraftKings Sportsbook. You go and you download the app. And then if you are a new customer, then all you got to do is bet $5 and you're going to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. So if you bet on Joe Namath to make a touchdown, you bet $5 on him, then you get $200 in bonus bets. Well, you could bet on Dick Butkus, and you could bet on Willie Mays, and you could bet on somebody else to make a touchdown too, and you'd still have money left over to bet.
Well, almost, you at least got some athletes in there, not necessarily all football players, but the
and
crown
what's that
is yours.
guy named? Is Travis something or other? He's fucking Taylor Swift.
Once again, the crown is yours, or Travis's, whoever it may be, with DraftKings.
I bet you Travis feels like a king, but yeah, right now, folks, if you want to download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, new customers bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you use the code JCE. JCE is it. $200 in bonus bets when you bet $5. It's the number one place to bet touchdowns. You can possibly bet interceptions. Other terminology I'm not aware of. And if you want to bet how many times a week that Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift bump uglies, it might be on there too. Because DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours.
That's right, and I believe we have something to say about that.
We got Motormouth. We got Motormouth is back, right?
I'm trying to find Motormouth right now.
Where is he? Has he gone outside to take a break?
Sir, will you please come here and let's hope that you're going to say the right thing, because it's somewhat confusing the way this is laid out over here. But yeah, our friend is here, and he has something to say. Let's go to him right now.
Right now.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball. NFL Plus premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus premium terms at nfl.com/terms.
Well, that clears it up. The crown is yours.
Yeah, that's clear as day now. And I'll tell you, if you've got a problem gambling, folks, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, and it'll become much easier.
There we go. It wasn't loud enough the first time. We are in the future. As if you didn't know.
You think it wasn't loud enough?
Oh, you're still here.
Yeah, I decided to come back. Well, we had to take a brief break for a telephonic conference in our busy lives, and now we're back to continue with the program, but the people have missed absolutely nothing.
I'll say. But we're back, ladies and gentlemen.
It's your show.
It's my show, and we have gone off in various directions. We've talked a lot about Kentucky, and of course, Raw, a little bit about Raw. But Jim, let's stay on the topic of WWE before we move on. Last week, we reviewed the debut of SmackDown on the USA Network. Not like Fox, not a broadcast channel available everywhere. USA Network's first WWE SmackDown. What did you think? What did you think the ratings were? Have you paid attention to what the ratings were, I guess is the question.
No, I haven't heard, because you were supposed to send them to me, and you didn't do it, and then I poisoned myself, and I've had other things going on or coming up or coming out or whatever, so I'm going to, like possibly many of the listeners, I'm going to be surprised here to hear what they were, but it was the debut on USA. It was heavily promoted. Cody and Solo, that cage match, the big angle, Roman Reigns. They dropped the cow. They put everything on the line there. What were the numbers?
Let's go to the numbers, and they're interesting. I hadn't really looked at them before, but WWE SmackDown's USA Network debut, Friday, September 13th, 2024, 8 to 10 p.m., but I think it was 10:05 p.m. On average, watched by 1,723,000 viewers.
Okay, so that is what they've been doing. 2 million or thereabouts, 2.2 on Fox. It's network, it's broadcast, but that is comparable with the Raw numbers of late, is it not? Well, or close to.
For comparison's sake, let me pull up the most recent Raw numbers I have here.
Jerk them on out.
September 16th, so just a few days after that, Raw on average was watched by 1,509,000 viewers.
Whoa, so it beat Raw. And on a Friday night where, you know, the old folks say that the young folks like to go out on Friday and Saturdays.
And let me just pull up last week's, and again, these were compiled by WrestleNomics. Last week was September 6th on Fox. It was the final Fox episode. The average viewership was 1,770,000 viewers.
Oh, okay. So the last time, honestly, we paid close attention to the SmackDown numbers were closer to after WrestleMania and King of the Ring and stuff when they were doing some big shows. So it's settled into the high ones potentially.
Well, it's very interesting. I'm reading the notes here again. This is the September 6th episode on Fox. It was the lowest number and the lowest key demo since December 29, 2023.
Oh.
WrestleNomics noted, AEW Collision ran head-to-head on TNT with an average of 157,000 viewers.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
SmackDown was number one in the key demo on broadcast as usual, despite delivering the second least watched episode in its 5-year run on Fox. The only episode lower was the best of that I cited before, December 29, 2023.
So that was just that lame duck show, and people decided to go to the all-night gas station.
So by and large, they had the same amount of viewership on the USA Network debut than they had on the final Fox episode, off by what? 50,000 viewers.
Well, that's a pretty seamless transition. Now, where will it settle in Do you think everybody's going to migrate over eventually? Or was this we got to watch the debut, but then, well, we don't want to watch it anymore because it's on a different network? That doesn't really make sense.
Well, we'll see, because again, SmackDown's always been pretty consistent, and they're really good at holding their viewership, but they were also on broadcast TV, and there has to be some kind of drop-off if you go from broadcast to cable still in 2024. Yes. With that said, and we'll talk about a few of the quarterly hours here, looking at the trend line that WrestleNomics has, it is significantly off the overall viewership from Fox, which, according to this trend line, was around 2.2 million, give or take, each episode. But the key demo is not that far off. And at times, the key demo actually is somewhat equal to the other one. So we'll see. I guess it all comes back to you have to have a hot show. You have to have a good show. And you would think with less commercials like they had on Fox, it gives you more of a chance to have a better show. And that was already a good show for WWE fans.
Well, I couldn't have put it better myself, whatever it was you just said.
They opened 8 to 8:15 p.m. quarter one with Triple H's introduction and the Cody Rhodes versus Solo Sikoa cage match beginning. 1.56 million viewers. And for the record, 713,000 in the key demo. So the key demo is as big as AEW's overall viewership.
Oh, good Lord. But also, so they started with 1.5 with their average of 1.7. They're going up, aren't they?
Quarter two, continuation of the cage match, 1.78 million. 8:15, 8:30. 1.75 for more of that match and the angle. In quarter three, they have a women's segment, Michin versus Piper Niven, continues into quarter four, as well as the Kevin Owens and Ricky segment. That's 1.7 million. So once they got above that, it's almost like the opposite of the Big Bang Theory thing. They got held down by the first quarter, and all of a sudden it popped right after that.
Yeah, people realize, oh shit, we're over on USA this week, and oh shit, there's a cage match with Cody and Solo, and they picked up more people in quarter two than AEW usually loses in quarter two.
And quarter two matches the 9 o'clock hour, quarter five, 9 to 9:15 p.m., which was, again, that Kevin Owens-Randy Orton tag match. 1.78 million. Drops down to 1.72 for Nia Jax's segment. Drops all the way down to 1.67 for Andrade versus Carmelo Hayes.
That's not surprising.
9:45 to 10 p.m., and again, there's a 5-minute overrun. Quarter eight, the post-match of LA Knight with Carmelo and Andrade. Bianca, Jade, Nia, and Tiffany backstage. Roman Reigns' entrance and the start of his live promo. 1.8 million viewers. 5-minute overrun. Cody Rhodes and the Bloodline come out. 1.81 million.
Whew. So they came back and finished at the high point for Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes and the Bloodline story.
They also peaked with the key demo. Quarter seven, again, Carmelo versus Andrade. 687 in the key demo. Quarter eight, 783. 791 for the overrun. So they did not lose audience during this show. They started at their lowest point and kept building. It's the way it's supposed to be done.
I always thought I've always heard that's the way it used to be. What's that Carly song? That's the way I always heard it should be.
I'm not a big Carly Simon fan, I couldn't tell you.
Hey, you're the one she was singing about. You're so vain.
That was Warren Beatty, or was it Mick Jagger? Or was it Ryan O'Neal? I'm not sure who it was.
You probably think this podcast is about you.
No, this is Jim Cornette's Drive Thru.
Yeah, but you're the host of it.
Oh, but you're the star of it. You're the star.
So it's
and of course,
our faults.
Earth revolves around a star, as you know. Well, those were the SmackDown ratings for the debut on USA. Jim, let me ask you about a real-world story before we get to more wrestling.
Yes.
Have you been following the story of Dave Grohl releasing a statement announcing that he is a new father from someone outside of his marriage and that he's going to do everything he can to make it up to his family? Have you been following this at all?
No, I have what? Why would I be? Am I a member of the Dave Grohl fan club? Why would I be following Dave Grohl and his sordid?
I thought you were a
family
fan of
fucking
soft white
drama?
rock stars. I didn't think that. I thought this was right down your.
He's
alley.
way too new for me.
Way too new.
I know he's done something with somebody somewhere. What was he famous for?
Nirvana?
Yeah, one of those new bands. That's too modern for my taste.
Well, what are your thoughts on
What, he was in something else though, wasn't he?
the Foo Fighters? The Foo Fighters.
Oh, now I've always been in favor of the fighting of Foo.
They are the weakest, softest, most corporate rock garbage band.
But there's too much
ever.
Foo in the world. If people are going to fight the Foo, I'm spitting all over my microphone. If people are going to fight the Foo, I believe we should follow them in their fighting of Foo.
Well, I have an article here from the New York Post in the celebrities column.
Why did he feel the need to tell the world that he's fucking around on his wife?
Well, the statement...
Inseminating strangers at random.
The statement he released on Instagram stated, "I've recently become the father of a new baby daughter born outside of my marriage. I plan to be a loving and supportive parent to her. I love my wife and my children, and I'm doing everything I can to regain their trust and earn their forgiveness. We're grateful for your consideration towards all the children involved as we move forward."
All the little children of the world. Well, then why is he embarrassing his wife and children by telling the entire world that he's been fornicating with some mistress and has procreated some progeny?
Well, that's the thing. What causes someone to go public with a statement like that? Is he trying to get ahead of something, a lawsuit, a story, whatever?
It sounds like he was trying to get ahead and it went wrong.
"I love my wife and children and doing everything I can to regain their trust." How about keep it in your pants? Start with that. Now that I did all this stuff, I need to ask for forgiveness before I do it again.
Well, as long as people forgive him, then that's the most important thing. And by the way, he can also tell people that his wife has pimples on her ass to regain her trust.
Well, apparently she's spending a lot of time with her tennis coach now. I guess that's the move.
Wait a minute. How old is this Grohl fellow?
Dave Grohl is 55 years old, his wife 48.
55 fucking years old, he's having a baby? Well, he's not having a baby. He's caused someone to have a baby, but Jesus Christ.
Well, I'm sure it must have been a Mensa candidate that he was with on the road. So maybe this will all work out for the best. But there's the real world news about Dave Grohl.
Well, thank you for bringing that up.
I must admit, I've never liked his music. But Jim, let's go now to the wonderful world of AEW.
Oh, boy.
And before we talk about Dynamite, I guess we should mention, and it's kind of weird to even bring it up anymore because we've talked about it at length. And we're in this weird hanging period where everyone's waiting for what we expect to come.
And you know what they say? Waiting is the hardest part.
But we've gotten to the point now where Tony Khan publicly is saying that he has 100% certainty that AEW will be with TNT, Warner Brothers Discovery, TBS going forward. A report came out that a deal is in the works for $170 million-ish per year, and that number can move. That number can move, but it would be for AEW programs twice a week on TBS, TNT, and True TV, which makes people wonder, are they going to drop one of their low-rated shows? Are they going to be having replays on True TV? How exactly will that work? It appears, as we've said before, a while back that we thought it was coming, it appears the deal is coming, but no one knows exactly what it is. So I guess I don't even know what I'm asking you, but...
Well, and also that figure that you gave has been extrapolated by some, among them, Uncle Dave Meltzer has weighed in on this and written a dissertation. But people are getting that number from what... I was already sick from the food poisoning, and then trying to read Uncle Dave's reporting on this gave me a headache and it made me question my sanity because it's a word salad. But they're saying it's supposed to be double the current figure, but nobody can establish how they're figuring the current figure. Can you figure that out? Because are they doubling the original deal, or they're doubling a deal that they had, or the prior number, or before they escalated the contract, or when they added the TV show, but you can deduct that because that's half it's insane. And so all we know is they're supposedly, and here's another thing. You don't know whether the pay-per-views are figured in or some kind of streaming. What are they buying? Are they buying more from AEW for the larger amount, or is it for the same thing, or what's involved? Nobody knows.
Yeah, Tony has 100% certainty, but we have 0% clarity on any of this.
Yes, and Uncle Dave, in long paragraphs, single-spaced, with a lot of numbers and some various speculation, did a page and a half on it, but here's the closing statement in Uncle Dave's dissertation on the new AEW TV rights fees and what it may mean for AEW and this and that. And he was very, very complimentary and very glowing through much of it. But finally he says, put succinctly, for a promotion to have major popularity, it's still about making stars and having the exposure where they are seen as stars for enough people. It always has, and even today, it still does.
Yeah.
What the fuck? That sounds like Oscar Gamble. A lot of people don't think it be like it is, but it do. Examined it succinctly. It always has, and even today, it still does. What the fuck?
Well, that was succinct, wasn't it?
It was distinct. Yeah, that was succinctly put, and the most tortured syntax of, but
Dude,
a lot of people don't think it be like it is, but it do.
Every week, Dave's writing turns more and more into Captain Beefheart. I swear to God. You don't know where the fuck he's going.
It's almost like Leno writing on the side of the envelope, crossways, and then around continued on back.
That was one of his mentors. But, anyway, to circle back, the idea of the TV deals coming, like you said, Tony's a private company. They are a public company. So we will find out details. But no one knows exactly what percentage of AEW Warner Brothers Discovery has an interest in. No one knows.
Well, and a lot of people don't talk about it very often, but we established that some time back from Tony's words, the things that he had said, that they have some interest in the pay-per-views, or had some interest, and are, I guess, going to continue that in some fashion. But they don't have any voting power in the company, because, by God.
Tony Khan is actually the only one with voting power for AEW.
Well, yeah, because if they opened that son of a bitch up to votes, it would look like fucking a South American country. But that's the point is, Ecuador would be good for one. Are they including any kind of rights of the pay-per-view into a streaming thing where it's guaranteed or blah, 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 or whatever? We don't know what they're buying and what they're paying.
Yeah. See, Tony has three big things. If you take away his booking and everything, if you just look at like a businessman and the assets he has, he's got the TV shows and whatever audience they could bring with them. He's got the pay-per-views and he's got the archive. So that's why a lot of people have said if this does not come with a max component, it's not the win it could be, because you still need to house all that archival content and make money off it. Right now, it's not being monetized correctly. Even their YouTube stuff, if you know a little bit under the hood about YouTube, I don't think they're correctly doing that. So, I mean, there's an issue with where and how the archive is monetized and where it'll be. And then with the pay-per-views too. Right now, it's on regular pay-per-view. It's on Triller, whatever the hell that is. It's on DAZN. It's on BR Live. If it was just on one streaming service, that would be a major benefit to AEW. That's what they need.
And also right now, if you want to see All In 2021, where do you go?
For me, Because,
well, I don't mean just you.
well, no,
I mean
but
the
for
royal
me,
you.
well, I don't know where anyone else would go, but for me, because I purchased that one live on BR Live, I could still access it, I believe, through that website for as long as that deal exists between AEW and them.
But I mean, no, what if you didn't see it? What if you're a new fan and you say, well, I like this horse shit and I want to watch all the pay-per-views that they've done before I figured out that this was a thing. How do you do that?
I don't know if you can. Maybe maybe on one of those sites like Triller or DAZN, they have the archival pay-per-views. They certainly don't have all the archival TVs.
Because at least you used to be able to buy the DVD and have it on your shelf no matter how old it was. And now with the WWE Network / Peacock, you can go there, but AEW stuff just sits somewhere.
See, that's the other thing too. And again, a lot of it relates to whatever existing deals you have for an AEW or WWE or anyone, but the idea of just selling direct downloads to replace DVDs, Blu-rays, VHS, everything else that came before it, it's not really been exploited enough. Because people want to keep what they want, even if they'll watch it on a streaming service. If WrestleMania, if you could buy a high definition, the rights to having a license, I guess you should say, to having that digital file, people would pay $60 for that after the fact, after they already watched it, but they don't really do that. And they should. I would.
Well, then you need to go in there and tell them how to do these things.
No, I don't know if we'd get along.
That's true. Some of those people I've heard are quite hard to deal with.
What do you think AEW's TV deal needs to be for it to be a win? Now, again, a lot of people are just focusing on if it's 170 million, let's say. Dave Meltzer's big thing is they are now the second most profitable wrestling company in history. Based on that, which is a ridiculous way to look at it, considering inflation and everything else. And
well, but even then, they've spent more money than any wrestling company ever in the history of ever to this point.
And the spending's going up. That's the other thing. As WWE free agents become available, the spending is going to have to go up. And as Tony wants to retain the talent he has who want to go to WWE, he's going to have to double and triple salaries. The spending is only going up. It's not going down.
Well, but also, whose word are we taking that didn't we establish, or from best guesstimates that have been out there, that he's paying $100 million a year just for talent? And renting NBA-sized arenas and staffing them and doing a full television production twice a week, and who knows what else. So the point is the incredible amount of money being spent, and Dave is thinking, and he's trying to proffer that theory to the world so more people will think it, that, oh, well, now that means this will wipe away all the first 5 years of losses. How the fuck? How the fuck is even $170 million a year going to wipe out 5 years of losses when they've been spending money like this? How much money have they lost?
How much money did they lose on the video game? Did we ever get a real number on that? Because it's a private company. Did we ever find out how much money they blew on a video game that everyone who knew anything in advance like us said was going to be a complete bomb, that it wasn't ready for the market? And it's a disaster, that game.
We heard they were spending $50 or $60 million and it was on clearance. I don't think that was a profit, but I'm just saying, you can't look at this thing and go, what the fuck? How, even if you're making a profit as it exists now, how is it fiscally responsible to run these fucking massive buildings for 3,000 people? And how is it in any way fiscally responsible? Miro just asked for his release. He moved to Bulgaria last year, and he's been paying him since then.
I meant to ask you about that, and hold on, let me pull up something here.
But I'm just saying, how many more people is he just paying that we haven't even thought of in months?
And again, how many is he paying more than current market value? It will become market value.
Every single one of them.
Well, that's the thing. It becomes market value as he overpays them. And that's why people are like, oh, why is WWE mad? They could pay these guys a lot. They can. But they all of a sudden have a figure, whether it's right or wrong, who is just increasing the salary structure just because it's play money to him. That's where, if you're running a real business, it's like, what the fuck? What is this guy doing? We're going to have to redo our P&L. Jim, I have something here, and several listeners have sent it over. This is from Fightful Select. Fightful Select Sean Ross Sapp has learned that Miro, formerly Rusev, has asked for his release from All Elite Wrestling.
Formerly wrestler.
Miro hasn't wrestled for AEW at all in 2024, last winning a match at AEW World's End in 2023. We're told that Miro was sidelined longer than AEW expected after that match. That's when he went to Bulgaria, isn't it?
Yeah.
But has been healthy for quite some time. There was some consideration internally to use him in the AEW All-In Casino Gauntlet, and he had pitched working with Jon Moxley earlier this year.
Oh, good Lord.
I'd like to see that. Let's see Moxley act like a tough guy in there with Miro.
Yeah, that would be interesting now that I'm thinking about it.
Miro and AEW were unable to get on the same page creatively, something that became somewhat common for the two sides over recent years. Miro worked only 7 matches for AEW in 2023,
Jesus Christ.
and has only wrestled 11 matches since December 2021.
Jesus Christ.
He said his hero is Carl Pavano. You won't get that, but other people will.
I don't.
We've not learned if Miro was granted his release or if there's interest from WWE. Miro is earning into the 7 figures.
Jesus Christ.
Miro had signed a contract upon joining AEW in September 2020 that was set to expire in spring 2022. However, he signed a 4-year extension around that time
Jesus Christ.
that could still have him with AEW until spring 2026. So there's a pretty thorough report from Fightful Select and Sean Ross Sapp. What do you think of the Miro situation?
First of all, if that's in any way true, 7 figures for this fucking clown that they brought in a pink Minnie Mouse shirt. And then
It's Gucci.
He almost had something going when he lost Pip Sabian and the whole thing, and then he was gone, and then he's back. The inexplicable real-life marital turmoil that was playing out on our screen with him and Lana. What was it Tim Ross said in 4 Rooms? Whatever kind of psychosexual game you people are playing.
CJ.
And then he's wrestled 11 times in 2 years, making 7 figures. I can't believe. Yes, I can. But one thing of the other of these two has not happened. If anybody had any sense, if Miro was getting paid $1 million a year, if he's, maybe I ought to accept some of these creative pitches. Since I'm making $1 million a year, or actually, no, he could just go to live in Bulgaria and make $1 million a year to sit on his big fat ass. But if I was Tony Khan paying this son of a bitch $1 million a year, I said, I don't care whether you like my creative. Go out there and put the mascot over. I like pockets. Or I won't send you your check and you can have your release. What the fuck?
See, that's the thing. Tony Khan being a horrible booker has to kind of be taken out of the picture. And again, if you're going to bring Miro back just to throw him in a casino gauntlet match, how many guys get wasted in their return like something like that? But if he's turning down everything for years, and now they're saying that, what was the quote here? He has been healthy for quite some time. So he's
is that mentally or physically?
There's something going on here. And again, it comes back to, unless he contractually has creative control, why isn't Tony Khan putting his foot down?
When has Tony Khan ever put his foot down?
Yeah, I mean, again, $1 million ain't going to cause him to do it. And the other thing is, well, let me ask you from whatever you're going to say it, but also from the WWE end, if you look at all the drama with Miro and AEW, and you realize it probably isn't 100% Tony Khan, do you have second thoughts about bringing him back to WWE?
Why would they want him? At this point, everybody they've got's over. He lives in Bulgaria. He's been a problem child at the other company. Unless he's got some close friends there, he can plead his case of complete innocence. And if he doesn't sound, he hasn't acted like a stable type of individual himself. Remember when he was going to come all over me on Twitter like God's wrath?
He was going to come to your house and come all over you.
Yes, like God's wrath. I didn't know God even engaged in that type of activity.
That's a good tag team name.
God's Wrath.
Yeah, that's good.
It could have been him and Pip.
Oh, me and CJ.
Well, somebody got some wrath out of that, but I don't. Anyway.
What was her deal with AEW? How much money was she getting paid by AEW?
To do what? Nobody ever figured it out.
Exactly.
What was that whole thing? That's what how many of these people are still being paid that we have not seen, that may not even live upon these shores anymore?
And the other problem is this impasse in the creative. Tony has bad ideas. Every idea from Miro is how to break up his marriage on live TV. What's he going to do now that that's out the picture?
Yeah, this was not a situation where Jack Pfeffer was facing down Eddie Graham. This was, we've equally got some stupid fucking ideas. We want our stupid instead of the other guy's stupid.
Well, we will keep on top of the stupid news with Miro, but Jim, why don't we talk about AEW Dynamite, which took place a few days ago? What was it? September
18th.
September 18th, the day after your birthday.
You know what?
What?
I'm just thinking. I watched this show at the same time I was eating the garlic and chicken calzone that poisoned me. And maybe it was this show rather than the calzone. I hadn't even thought about that. It was the exact same time, and I haven't been the same since.
Wow.
They should have subtitled this program, "Is This a Fucking Rib?"
Well, the answer is no. They're very serious about what they're doing.
The opening match on this program from Wednesday night, September 18th, and I forgot to even write down where they were. And I don't know if anybody knew where they were because nobody showed up, but the opening match was Pockets, the company mascot, with poor Kyle O'Reilly and Mark Briscoe providing the Larry and Curly parts to this fucking Mo against Chris Jericho with his two stooges in the corner. And this thing took up pretty much the first 25 minutes of the television program. And yes, I know Jericho is a shell of himself and he's in his mid-50s and the gimmick is rotten. But he's still a name. He's still a recognized star. He still might be of some benefit to them in some way. And he went 25 minutes with the comedy mascot and lost.
In Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania.
Wilkes-Barre. Boy, howdy.
Estimated attendance, 2,896 tickets distributed.
Well, that's tickets given out. Not everybody, but they didn't have 2,865 guns in town to force people to come at gunpoint. Anyway, any thoughts on that thing before we move along?
It's been a few weeks now where, for no good reason, they returned to this Pockets Chris Jericho feud. They had the really embarrassing angle with Jericho's car. That'll probably be on the Worst of AEW Volume 3 on the bus, now that we think about it.
Yeah, this was a big grudge match from them totally scuffing the upholstery on that fancy sports car of Jericho's with a handful of quarters last week.
This match is a great example of the problems with AEW. Orange Cassidy, it's been 5 years. I don't think anyone gives a shit anymore. And it's something that hurts AEW more than they're willing to recognize. Again, the diminishing crowds that go to the live shows, he still gets a pop from a smaller and smaller audience because he'll never be part of a winning team that bring people back in. And Jericho's the opposite. Orange Cassidy's been doing the same thing for 5 years. Jericho, in the midst of the endless midlife crisis that is Chris Jericho, has an awful gimmick that the AEW fans don't like. It's not heat when people leave to go to the bathroom in the concession stands when you're on. That's not heat. That's the opposite of heat. That's we don't give a fuck. And both these guys, the best thing for AEW with them both being far away from this TV and far away from Tony Khan for a while, because some of the people Tony leans on are just the wrong people.
Jericho's not even halfway through that 10-year contract we heard he signed till he's 62. So he's got to come up with some ideas on how to put the guy over that Tony dressed as for Halloween to make the guy happy. They'll keep paying him. So then there was a lot of the plumber and Claudio and Pac and their thing, they did a promo in the back with the ominous music where they talked in circles and they're trying to get old Wheeler Useless to defend the 6-man tag team belts next week, even though he didn't agree with them for beating up Bryan Danielson for whatever fucking reason. And that was an ongoing thing that we'll come back to. Did you enjoy the match between Hook and Tits McGee?
No, not really.
He came out,
Did
he
you?
suplexed the guy twice or three times and choked him out.
I'm kind of bored. Yeah, bored may not be the right word. I'm kind of over Hook until they do something good with him.
Well, it's disappointing now because it never went anywhere and he's been made to look stupid and his weaknesses have been exploited rather than his strengths being exploited. And
imagine if he had Paul Heyman like Taz did.
oh boy.
You know what I mean? Like he would have found a way to not. We've seen, like you said, we've seen every weakness on the mic, in the ring, and of course with the overall booking. The whole point of someone like that is to hide all that forever. And AEW, to me, I'm kind of over Hook right now.
Well, maybe when he becomes a captain. See, now, if Jim Herd was around, he'd put a pirate hat on that motherfucker, have him chop his left arm off, and put a fucking hook on it. You'd have a goddamn movie tie-in.
He can make Tony Schiavone Smee.
Well, speaking of Smee, did you Smee the interview with Private Party?
I did. This was the best interview I've ever seen them do ever. And for a moment, I said to myself, you know what? If they're going to use this Moxley thing to give Private Party a harder edge and make them more serious and believable, I couldn't believe how much I liked Isaiah Cassidy on the mic here. I thought this was great. Now,
I want to congratulate the meth growers of America for, goddamn, it was like a Federal Express commercial. All of a sudden, they're blah, 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 blah. Like, what the fuck happened here? Apparently, they knew they had to get it in before they got the shit kicked out of them later on.
well, that's the problem with it. It was a good promo if you were going to set them up to be a little different. Instead, I mean, we'll talk about when we talk about it, but when you punch Jon Moxley and he doesn't even sell it, like it right away, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, oh, these guys had a chance with that promo to be a little different, and now they're just back to being flippy jobbers.
Every babyface in this company starts a fucking fight and promptly gets his ass handed to him.
You know, again, you look at AEW 5 years of Dynamite. The very beginning, you looked at Mark Quinn and you said, if this guy had training, if this guy was produced, this guy could be, I don't know if you said top star. I won't go that far, but this guy could be a star.
He could be money for you.
He could be money for you. That was 5 years ago. They're exactly where they were 5 years ago, if not worse off, because 5 years ago, we hadn't seen them get their ass kicked all the time, or be jobbers, or be aligned with the Hardys, or just nonstop bad booking.
Oh, they were suckered by several crooked managers, weren't they?
They were. And again, we're 5 years later, you looked at Mark Quinn and you saw the talent there. When was the last time you remember even seeing him in the ring do anything? So they're doing something really wrong with that.
Well, speaking of really wrong, Renee Moxley Good was with Christian Cage and his company, and even Christian's promos now are just kind of, well, it's the same thing he's been doing. He's very well spoken, but we're not covering any new ground here. But then Pip Sabian came in the room off camera, and Christian Cage tells him off. And he said, I don't care whether your dad's dead.
Well, he was trying to talk to Nick Wayne, right?
Well, I don't know what the fuck he's doing. Did Pip Sabian and Nick Wayne used to have a relationship? Were they dating on Saturday nights? What was going on there?
I don't know what's going on with them, but I think that's what it is. He's trying to talk to Nick Wayne, and that's what's causing Christian to, you know, at this point, why could you even be bothered? Every promo he does, no matter who he's feuding with, your wife is dead, your dad's dead, your mom's dead. What the fuck?
Your company's dead.
Your fucking promos are dead. Your gimmick is dead. No one cares about this. It's dead.
How did you like the tag team match with Serena and Maria against Queen Waiata and Yuka Sakazaki?
Queen Aminata, who's a very attractive woman, and Yuka, who the fans there seem to know and seem to react to. I needed a break.
Yeah.
After that long private party promo and the Christian promo, I needed a little bit of a break, so I actually did not watch this match. I must admit, I'm not really into the AEW women's division.
Well, and then did you see the Nigel McGuinness package where they actually finally told us that he used to be a professional wrestler?
We just talked about that in the review last week, and we said this was the big thing missing. They're assuming that fans know anything about Nigel when the only thing he's ever done on mainstream TV was as Desmond Wolfe or being a commentator. Maybe it's a little too late considering the events next week.
But at least they tried.
And I thought it was a really good video. I think they did a good job with it.
And also when Nigel said, a lot of people don't even know I was a wrestler.
Bleach your hair again. You look cool back then.
There is something to be said for that. Because you see a bleach blonde guy in this day and age, he's a wrestler. But anyway, folks, we were at 9 o'clock in this 2-hour program with what we have just described to you. This is what they were airing while in the middle of a rights renewal rambunctiousness. So at 9 o'clock, here came Moxley the Plumber, Claudio, and Marina Shafir walking through that big empty arena to the ring. And they actually, one of the handheld shots kind of strayed too far over to the left for a minute with one of those spotlights playing around, and you could see one side of the building was completely empty. But
well, if you notice, they came out from the empty side so that when the camera shows them coming out, you would only see the fans behind them where the fans are situated.
Yes, it's a piece of a very tough balancing act you got to do there between trying to get a shot and showing that there ain't nobody there. But then as soon as they walk to the ring, here comes Private Party, your favorite tag team, Brian. And they jumped Moxley, and he completely no-sold it, and they proceeded to beat the fuck out of Private Party. They couldn't even whip the girl.
He no-sold it to an insulting degree if I was one of those guys, to be very honest with you.
Unprofessionally, to be honest.
There's no selling, and then there's acting like the punch didn't happen, smirking and continuing to walk. That was ridiculous. That was egregious. If I was one of those guys, there'd be a problem.
And considering that Moxley is 0 for life against fucking Home Depot stock boys and fucking Kroger employees in these amateur jiu-jitsu tournaments, I have a feeling Private Party could probably handle him.
See, some babyface has to use that. John Moxley, I challenge you to a grappling match. I've seen the videos. You can't beat anybody. Come on, get in here and let's grapple.
Oh, well, and it went forever. They just beat them up, and the girls beating them up. And then Commander ran out to help, and they beat him up. And then the girl beat up Alex. Poor Alex, what did he do? And then Moxley gets a toolbox and gets a hammer and a microphone. And which one did they have of the Private Party members held down there? Was it Quinn or was it Cassidy?
I don't even remember.
Well, whatever, they hold the baby face immobile and he's struggling to get away, like, oh, let me loose. And he belittles him to his face and said, I'm going to give you a gift, and then hit his hand with the hammer. And then
I think that was Darby. Cassidy. I think that was Isaiah Cassidy, because that was the one who cut the really good promo, I thought.
Well, that'll teach him. And then here comes Darby to make the big save and tackles Moxley, and they roll in the ring, and Darby's still carrying his skateboard, but he's not doing anything with it. Claudio doesn't get in the ring to help. Shafir doesn't get in the ring to help. It's Moxley and Darby in the ring yelling at each other and then staring at each other, and then Moxley bailed out and Darby yelled at him some more. And thanks for coming, Private Party. Your thoughts?
Again, I will go back to Private Party because I was so happy they did a good promo, and then it was completely thrown away by the no selling of them. And then, of course, they just, for no good reason, they got his hand. Moxley's watching too many movies. See, that's the problem. Because AEW has this not even part-time schedule. He has a lot of time to sit there and catch up on cinema. And he's watching all the things that he hears about, and he just wants to take things from movies and bring them into AEW, whether it's line for line dialogue or whether it's some of these things. This stuff is terrible. Every Jon Moxley thing in AEW has been some version of, I'm a complete badass, I'm going to sell nothing, and then just keep doing this. It was him as a solo, it was him with the BCC, and now it's him with whatever this is. Is this still the BCC?
I don't know what the fuck it is.
Yeah, so
they lost Wheeler. A wheel came off.
Who do you put over in the match next week? Darby versus Moxley. Winner getting a title shot.
Well,
does it have to be Moxley?
It has to be Moxley, doesn't it? Because didn't he just put a plastic bag over the goddamn champion's fucking head? So how is Darby going to get a title match against Danielson when and remember, I swear to God, when I was watching none of this 10 years ago or whatever it was, remember when Moxley was together in the WWE with Rollins and Roman Reigns?
The Shield, yes.
And Uncle Dave was saying, oh, but the star of this group is Moxley. And I was like, boy, that guy must be pretty good, because I know how good Tyler Black was.
The star of the group is the guy who has the best relationship with my website. That's what it is.
Well, there you go. Now we have found out that what the fuck. So one is the co-biggest star in the business right now, Roman and Cody. One is in the upper echelons of stars in the business, and one is this fucking drunken bum staggering around, losing his hair in front of our eyes on TV every Wednesday night, making no sense and stinking a joint out. Uncle Dave can pick 'em. What about the newest multi-million-dollar acquisition in the AEW basket of puppies and kittens? Ricochet. Did you see the Ricochet match?
Oh boy, did I. Against maybe someone getting equally as good a push right now. The Beast Mortos, I believe.
Rigor Mortis. Old Rigor Mortis.
There's something so low rent about him that I like. It just looks like a generic luchador on like a garage show in Southern California.
What are those chains? The chains on his bull mask. There are chains hanging down on either side of the cheeks. How can you punch this guy without breaking your hand?
See, he's smart.
Well, anyway, I got a little bit of it, and I had to get some relief. I had to fast forward through it because it's sloppy, nonsensical, aggressive parkour because you got what you got here. But it took their new big star, Ricochet, who is, what'd you say? A couple weeks ago. How long is it going to take him to be one of the boys? I said about 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, it took maybe.
Here you go.
Maybe quicker than that. Yeah.
We've never seen this fucking mentor until 2 weeks ago, and it took their new big signing 15 minutes to beat this guy, and he did it with a head kick to a stationary target that didn't come close, and then a reverse DDT slam thing. Not even a flying dingbat off the top rope. What the fuck was this?
There was a spot that people started sending around of Ricochet going for a kick or a stomp of some sort and completely missing.
Yes, that was there's the bull of the woods, baby, is on his knees with his head bent over, and Ricochet jumps up and is going to do a big flying stomp and came down like 6 inches in front of the guy's head and stomped the mat, and the guy collapsed. And 15 minutes again of this.
You know what else doesn't help Ricochet? His promos. Because I saw the thing with him and Ospreay, the more he talks, I think the less people are going to want to hear him talk ever again.
I swear to God. We'll skip ahead because there's something else in between. But then the next time we saw Ricochet after the Battle of the Whiff Kick, he and Ospreay were in the back challenging each other. They're both baby faces, by the way. Ospreay is very popular, and Ricochet was presented in a way as to he should be popular, but now they're mad at each other. And they're going to fight on October 2nd for the international title. Boy, whoopee, can't wait. And here's what I wrote. The longer Ricochet talks, the worse it is.
Yeah, it's the truth. Ospreay, you can't even understand what he's saying, but at least he holds you.
Yeah, you're trying to figure it out. But with Ricochet, you hear it and
you're like,
you're not really stirred by it.
Yeah, you're like, I hate this guy. I don't want to hear this guy talk anymore. He's making me not like him at all.
Very off-putting.
Well, Jim, maybe Ricochet, maybe the problem is...
What is his problem?
Maybe he missed that stomp. Maybe he's talking in a boring manner, in a voice that no one wants to hear. Maybe because he didn't get a good night's sleep.
Well, that is the thing. And I'll tell you what, I can tell you from experience, if you're not getting proper sleep, you can be off your game. If you're up late at night throwing up your toenails, you can be bad the next morning. No, what you need, folks, is to visit our friends at CB Distillery. Over at cbdistillery.com. I hope everyone knows how to spell distillery because that's where you got to go. And that's the thing, Brian, sleep. It's rest, it's rejuvenation. And that's what the human body needs, along with not to eat poisoned garlic and chicken calzones. But CB Distillery provides you formulations made from the highest quality, clean ingredients, no fluff. No fillers, just pure, effective CBD solutions designed to help support your health. They have done 2 non-clinical surveys, Brian. And the non-clinical surveys, they're much better than the clinical surveys because they ask real people. How many people do you know live in a clinic? Huh?
Well, I'm not going to answer that, but that's not the question they're asking people.
Well, if they only go to clinics to do these surveys, they're going to get a certain segment of people that probably already have health problems. But they do non-clinical surveys. They're just talking to people out in the street, out of the clinic. These people are wandering around out in public, unsupervised. And 81% of customers experienced more calm. 80% said CBD helped with pain after physical activity. 90% said they slept better with CBD, and 4% of the people asked committed physical assault while screaming, "Get away from me, stop touching me."
That is not a statistic in these facts and the sheet we have here, so do not pay attention to that one, but pay attention to all the wonderful benefits that we're going to talk about.
It's within the margin of error, the 4%. If you struggle with a health concern, folks, and you haven't found relief, or if you found relief at the bottom of a bottle, for heaven's sake, for your aches and pains, if you've turned into the elderberry wine and you're taking nips, you've got a bottle hidden in the pantry from Aunt Gladys, cut that stuff out. Aunt Gladys will like this shit too. Maybe you'll get lucky tonight. Go to cbdistillery.com. Like over 2 million customers have. They've got a solid 100% money-back guarantee. If you take these items and you are not happy, then they'll give you your money back as soon as you puke up the pills. And if you go to cbdistillery.com right now and use the code JC.
That's right, JC.
JC, I'm sorry, you're confused. What was a depth charge?
Oh.
You're going to get 20% off the stuff we're talking about right now if you go to cbdistillery.com and use the code JCE. That's cbdistillery.com. The code is JCE. Better sleep, pain relief, more calm. Some people are so calm, you could just walk right in some of these people's houses and just carry their furniture out. They don't give a shit.
No, let's not do that. I don't even know who exactly you're pitching this to, but let's talk about the calmness of being in your house with a locked door and enjoying CB Distillery.
Oh, yeah. Make sure you lock your doors, because once you're on this stuff, you're going to try to get out and go out in public, and that's not a good idea. CBDistillery.com.
Yes.
CBDistillery.com. The code is JCE for 20% off these fine products that will make you feel better, live better, feel healthier. You're more charitable. You're kinder to animals. You like senior citizens more. and you oftentimes get up early in the morning for a bowl of oatmeal. CBDistillery.com, promo code JCE.
That's right. Promo code JCE. Check CB Distillery out today. Let us know what you think. But Jim, let's get back to Dynamite. They could use some of this over there at the creative team at Dynamite.
No, they're on the hard stuff. They're on the stuff that they're using the clinical surveys on. I think as a matter of fact, they get some of this stuff from a lab in Wuhan.
Really?
That the brain trust over at AEW has taken. Because next up, they thought it was a good idea on this rotten television program to have Tony Schiavone interview in the ring hangnail Adam Page. And I've decided that Adam Page is to wrestling promos what Helen Keller was to opera singing.
Oh.
He is just, he comes, again, another pretend wannabe badass. He can't carry it off. He's not Magnum TA. He looks like he ought to be riding a big wheel instead of a fucking Harley. He is not a cowboy. He may be a cowgirl. But so after Tony Schiavone mangled the introduction to this, trying to ask Page why he said he would be after anyone who supported Swerve, but it took him about 45 seconds to say that. You're gonna be mad at anyone behind him there. Then Page starts talking and doing his new bit now since he's changed personalities because, he hadn't changed personalities. He didn't have one to begin with. Now he's got a fake one. Do you know Tony Schiavone just stands there and doesn't even look at he's just holding the microphone like he's staring off into space somewhere. Is that supposed to convey his indignant look, or what is? If a guy interviewing me was ignoring me like that, I'd get mad at him and threaten him too, wouldn't you?
I mean, I don't know how many times I can go over it. Schiavone's awful at his job. He's terrible on commentary, and even the things where he holds the microphone, he either hands the microphone and walks away, or he just says dumb things. And some people there like him because he's the friendly old man version of Schiavone.
I've always gotten along with Tony. I always liked Tony myself, but if he's
terrible,
I know it. I mean, I don't know what a good announcer could do with this rotten program, but he's got to try, doesn't he? Something.
When was the last time Tony Schiavone tried? That was the whole problem with him in WCW. He was just this empty shell, seemingly breathing and blinking, but spitting out just nonsense all the time. And he does it here. Everything's the greatest. The fans are up. Good call. He says nothing. He's there because he's Tony Khan's stooge, which is the role he's sought out since the beginning of AEW.
Well, and there was so much competition for that one, too. I'm surprised he was able to place so highly. But anyway, Page then threatens Tony. He's going to beat Tony up because Tony said good things about Swerve. And then Jeff Jarrett came out to save the day. And Page beat the shit out of him all around ringside. And then when security ran out, Jeff was trying to fight back and Page fucking left. And then Jeff said, well, I'm not going to let Page touch Tony. No, you didn't. You let him beat the shit out of you.
Yeah, you idiot. What sense did that make?
And I mean, at least Jeff was trying to show a little fire at the end there when the security came in and everything. But God almighty, every baby face. It just...
Where's the Giant? Where's Sanjay? Where's this whole little clique of people who don't do anything? Why aren't they beating him up too?
Well, they ran out there to help pull him apart after he got his ass handed to him.
I put money on Karen Jarrett against Adam Page. Why isn't she going after him?
You know what? I'll goddamn guarantee I've seen her in action.
Oh, really?
Oh, quit.
At one of those freak-offs that you guys have?
No, come on.
I've been hearing about this. It's in the news.
She'll ring your bell.
Oh,
Karen could.
How much does that cost? How much?
Stop talking like that, you filthy-minded individual. I'm saying Karen Jarrett could kick the shit out of Hangnail Page. I'm convinced of it.
You know what problem too with Hangman Page is? He may have been a sap, but he was so nice as a drunk. He was just such a nice, happy drunk, all things considered, seeing how he turned out.
Well, see that
Maybe he needs to drink again.
Yeah, you got to get back on the booze. That's the thing. They're wanting us to say this guy is now, or wanting us to think or believe that this guy is now some badass homicidal maniac that burns houses down and exacts retribution on people when he was a morose, simpering drunk hanging out with fucking comedy job guys for 2 years in his life. And then they realized maybe about 1 year and 11 and a half months too late that they'd made a mistake, and then it's too late.
Based on the way Jeff Jarrett's been used, especially over the last 6 months or so, considering everything that happened with Adam Page and Swerve, is this an acceptable side thing until Swerve comes back?
Well, they've done a couple of things here lately with Jeff that made the people like him. He's been doing the heel thing, and the people didn't want to like Jeff because he's too old school wrestling for that crowd or whatever. So it did, and it was with Sanjay and the comedy stuff and the goofy pinhead giant. And that was gaga, but Jeff can talk. And Jeff can still work. And when they had him do that interview with Danielson and start to try to give him the pep talk or whatever, people started liking it. And you could have made Jeff Jarrett into a personality that while his best days in the ring may be behind him, he could be a mentor, motivator, or coach to some needy and I'm not talking about some fucking job guy off the bottom of the barrel. I'm talking about coming in when Danielson needs a helping hand, or coming in when another top babyface needs words of encouragement, and they get close, and then you beat up Jeff to get heat on the match with the top babyface that he's goddamn mentoring and the guy that beat him up. And you can even have the match first because Jeff can work, and he can get all these green fuckers through the shit that where it would make sense. But then they blew that within weeks to where now, okay, he does a promo every now and then and people like it, and then he gets beat up. The fuck? You've got to establish some relationship, some importance for somebody to have Jeff giving them this talking to and on their side. And then Jeff has to show that he's still capable of standing up for himself and maybe beat a few fucking miscellaneous people. And then the other guy, he has the match and he gets the shit kicked out of him in the end and the angle is done. And the other guy, I don't know what the fuck I'm even going through this for.
All right, well, we're going to continue going through whatever the fuck it is we're talking about here, but that was the Adam Page, Tony Schiavone, Jeff Jarrett segment.
Yes.
Go out of your way not to see that, but what else was on this show, Jim?
The main event, the 6-man tag team match. Explain this one to me, Lucy. Osprey and Felcher and Take a Shit with Don Fallis against the Hartley Boys and O'Cody. Okay, they're all heels, except for Osprey, who's supposed to be a babyface after he asked out of the heel manager's stable. But the heel manager and his friend Felcher asked him to come back for this 6-man tag team match. But they're all heels. Who would give a shit about this? It makes no sense. What is Don Fallis's purpose there now? Who is trying to get the heat here? The one team is the EVPs that have been running rampant. They're not really running rampant anymore, but nothing was ever done to make them stop running rampant. And they pile drove the owner of the company. It's never been mentioned again, except it was just for the NFL documentary, right?
Right, and that was a big thing this week where NFL released a Day with Tony Khan thing where he had the neck brace on.
Yes.
And his idea of selling the angle was being able to do everything he would normally do just wearing a neck brace.
Yes.
And other people from other teams were saying, what's going on with that neck brace?
They were making fun of him.
They were mocking him as you would expect.
He could hear them, and he even said in one of the clips, "Well, see if you like it if you get pile driven." What the fuck is about you?
And it seems like now, looking back, that he only did that for this documentary because it did nothing to help the business, nothing to build into future weeks of television. It was a useless, what should have been a major angle.
When was the last time it was mentioned on TV?
I don't recall.
Yeah.
I don't recall, but the other thing in that NFL documentary, apparently they showed Tony Schiavone's avatar. They showed Tony Khan 5 years ago, like on an NFL field with his dad.
He looked normal, didn't he?
It was like another person. It was like another, not to say that if you would have sat down with him, he wouldn't have just spit out a bunch of shit like he does with everyone else.
I can vouch for phone calls.
But it's like night and day what the wrestling business has done to him. It's night and day.
Night and day. So anyway, you had 2 6-man heel teams going at each other. Why anybody would give a shit, I have no idea, except for the people who wanted to see a bunch of video game moves, because that's what this was. Nearly a half an hour with the overrun of indie-rific bullshit. They have their own referee, the corpse ref, Rick Knox. So they can do whatever, the flipping and flopping, the same old shit. I don't know there was a tag in the last 5 minutes of this match at least. It's just people running at each other and doing things. And most of them look like children. Take a Shit's got a ton of potential. Or did have. He's been wasted. They didn't do anything with him when they had the opportunity. Then they bring in other Japanese wrestlers that are much worse than he is and pay him a lot more. Felcher, good young athlete with some kind of focus on something. You could do something with him. Ospreay, we've said, needs to be produced, or he'll just be a video game. But the people like him, and you could work with him. And, of course, we know the Hardley Boys are a total loss. And, Cody, how long is it going to be, Brian, before people quit pretending that this guy can move or can bump or can... He can't move. He doesn't bump. His strikes barely connect. He moves like a hippo with a hernia. And he's trying as hard as possible not to get hurt or break a sweat. He moves like he's in quicksand. Can you argue with anything I just said?
I've always liked Okada in New Japan when I watched his big matches, but I cannot argue that he has been a non-entity in AEW. And despite the push and the belt and the alignment with the Bucks, he's been a non-entity. And in the ring, he has been disappointing, at least to me and seemingly to a lot of other people. And the other part of the problem is, on one side, you kind of have, in a perfect world, a little shot of the future. Ospreay, Fletcher, and again, I think the more you see of him, at least for me, yeah, he does a lot of the stupid stuff everyone does because those are all the people he's around and he has no one producing him. Who's giving him ideas? Don Callis? But he's got size and he's getting bigger. He's still a young guy.
Yeah.
Takeshita, I've always been high on, and you have too when you watch him. He's been a non-entity because he hasn't been around, but they're against the Bucks and Okada. The Bucks are dead. I mean, they are frighteningly dead when you really think about the buzz they once had around them. It's amazing to see how little anyone cares about them and how little the AEW fans care about them. And Okada?
But it's one thing. Once you've seen what you see, it ain't gonna change.
And if you saw it in 2015, it's the same thing it is now. It's just they're older and less interesting. There's no potential anymore. It used to be, oh man, they can go to WWE or they could go to Ring of Honor or they could do this. They could start their own company. We're 5 years later. There's nothing left. Barely any hair left, but there's nothing left. And Okada, you know, at least he shows up for work. I'll give him that. There's a lot of millionaires in AEW who don't go to work, apparently. At least he shows up. But I tuned out of this match. And this isn't something I would have done a few years ago, even with the Bucks inclusion. But I didn't give a shit. And we know that they're building towards the story with the Callis family and Ospreay. It was all about the story, not about the match, but AEW focuses on the match, not the story.
And again, if we knew whose side we were supposed to be on, this would be a lot easier.
You know whose side you're supposed to be on. The one babyface on one of the 6-man tag teams of heels.
Oh, Christ.
So one wrestler in 2 tag teams.
Then if he gets screwed over when he's teaming up with the people who are going to screw him over, then doesn't he deserve to get screwed over? Because, what do you think? Of course I bit you. I'm a snake.
I just want to know if anyone has the guts, if anyone has said to Tony Khan's face, you cannot book television. Even if you want to be the matchmaker for the pay-per-views, let someone else who's not one of the wrestlers put together the television show. The TV never does them any favors. And that's the whole job of the TV.
I bet you that probably the only person that ever told him to his face that he was a rotten booker is currently one of the biggest stars in the WWE.
Which one?
Well, and that doesn't even narrow it down. Either Punk or Cody, probably Punk. I don't know if Cody would. Cody just probably wanted to just get the fuck out of there before he got any on him. And yes, I love you all, but I must go.
It was very bad at the end, but the thing is, Cody's very diplomatic. Punk is not diplomatic, especially if you're going to be the one fucking him over. So
so I'm pretty sure Tony's heard it, but he doesn't listen to competent sources.
So the Bucks are dead. Okada's dead. The Ospreay Fletcher Callis thing is something. And of course, you got the Ospreay Ricochet match, which they're determined to do very, very soon. Is that next week?
I think they said 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Coming out of the tag title
match. Got to give it a big, long build.
Well, that was AEW Dynamite.
What were the ratings on this fiasco? Were they dead?
Let me pull up the ratings here. AEW Dynamite, September 18th, 2024, 8 to 10:06 p.m. on TBS. On average, watched by 687,000 viewers.
Oh, all right. So they're back under 7.
And just for comparison's sake, because we've talked about it before, I just want to see if I could pull this up rather quickly. The day before NXT on USA, September 17th, 8 to 10:07 p.m., on average, 677,000 viewers.
Gee, so 10,000 people difference now between the developmental program and their A show.
And they're building NXT up in the weeks before it goes to broadcast TV.
Punk in Chicago, week 1, Orton in St. Louis, week 2. That could be very interesting.
Well, let me go to the quarterly hour breakdown, Jim. These were compiled by WrestleNomics. Quarter 1.
And noted trainer Thurston Howell III.
Quarter 1, Chris Jericho versus Orange Cassidy with picture-in-picture ads. 782,000 viewers.
Okay, now they didn't start again as strong as some weeks, so that means they don't have as fur to fall. But I would say this thing had to run off at least 50,000 viewers in the first 15 minutes, don't you?
Well, we will find out. Quarter 2, 8:15, 8:30 p.m. The continuation of Jericho versus Pockets. The Pac Claudio Moxley backstage promo. Wait, Pac really disappeared when they all came out. The Wheeler Yuta backstage promo. And Hook versus JD Inc. 724,000 viewers.
Okay, it wasn't 50, it was 58,000 that they lost.
Well, we go now to quarter 3, 8:30 to 8:45 p.m. The post-match of the Hook match with Undisputed Kingdom, Private Party's backstage promo, an ad break, the Patriarchy's backstage promo, and the start of Queen Aminata and Yuka Sakazaki versus Mariah May and Serena Deeb with picture-in-picture. Give them credit. At least they're fun names to read. 682,000 viewers.
Apparently not fun names to watch, though. There went another 42,000. So they're down 100,000 even in the first 45 minutes.
Well, we go now to quarter 4, 8:45 to 9 p.m. The continuation of Aminata and Sakazaki versus May and Deeb. The Mina Shirakawa promo.
Oh, God.
An ad break. Nigel McGuinness's video. And the John Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, Marina Shafir Private Party and Commander live angle. 674,000 viewers.
And it continues to fall. At least that was only 8,000. That's kind of normal bathroom break kind of thing, but nobody's clamoring to come back in.
Well, we go to the big 9 o'clock hour, 9 to 9:15 p.m. The continuation of Moxley and Claudio and Marina and Private Party and Commander and Darby and their live angle. A Jack Perry video that was nonsensical. We didn't even talk about that.
Oh, I skipped over that because I saw that fucking bus and I said, fuck it.
And the Ricochet versus Beast Mortos match with picture-in-picture ads, or the start of it. 715,000 viewers. Also, the high point in the key demo, 330.
So they got back up over 700,000. That's 26, 30, so 41,000 people at the top of the hour. But it doesn't look from their average like they were able to keep them. Am I predicting correctly?
We will find out. We go to quarter 6, 9:15 and 9:30 p.m. The continuation of Ricochet versus the Beast Mortos. The Hangman Adam Page video, an ad break, and the Hangman Adam Page live promo, the start of it. 661,000 viewers.
Good Lord. All right. So there went 39, 49, 54,000 people, or basically more than they just gained. That's the low point of the show so far.
We go now to quarter 6, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. The Hangman Adam Page, is this quarter 6? No, this is quarter 7, excuse me.
Quarter 7, yes.
Hangman Adam Page, Jeff Jarrett live angle. The Ricochet Kyle Fletcher backstage angle. An ad break. And the Elite versus Konosuke Takeshita, Will Ospreay, and Kyle Fletcher. 641,000 viewers.
Wow, the main event starts and they lose 20,000.
Well, we go now to quarter 8. I remind you, we have a 6-minute overrun. Quarter 8, 9:45 to 10 p.m., the continuation of the Elite versus the Callis family with picture-in-picture twice. 637,000 viewers. 6-minute overrun. 627,000 viewers.
Dad, they lose. They've killed Modern Family. So they went from the start of the program at 782,000. They lost 141,000 from there to the start of the main event. And the main event lost them another 14,000 people.
And again, ever since this overrun issue came up with Dave Meltzer really trying to spin it that it's a positive thing and that it's the responsibility of the fans to keep track of it, it seems like the overrun's always down. Now, we just saw on SmackDown the opposite. They started low, or at least at their low point, and the show kept building. Yeah, you get a bump at the 9 o'clock hour. That's your job to try to win people over at that time. They did. And their overrun went up. AEW, every week the overrun goes down, and it was the Bryan Danielson Swerve Strickland feud. And now it's the stuff with the Bucks. And Will Ospreay, who's, it seems like whenever they have the top babyface in the company in something at the end of the show, people don't watch. It's every week.
Well, another case of there you are.
Well, of course, Jim, coming out of AEW Dynamite, you may, if you watch it every week, look down and go, hey, I'm a neckbeard. I got to do something about this. You need a fine, responsible razor just for you.
Well, and you also, you don't need to put a razor near your neck when you've been watching AEW on television. You might just decide to end it all, but you can't do that with Harry's, for heaven's sake, because they're sharp blades, but they're also safety blades. And you're not going to do any damage to yourself. You're just going to shear that facial hair right off from the neck, from the cheek, maybe even the insides of the ears. You never know what you can get this ergonomically designed handle on this razor into.
Why don't we just stick to the face, the external face?
The external as opposed to the interior face. Well, if you've got... If you're two-faced, you need two sets of Harrys, one for each face. But folks, the people at Harry's know that you don't want to shave with low-quality products. So they have found a way to get an incredible shave for a price way lower than the big brands. You know, when you go into the grocery store or the drugstore or the big chains, you go to buy these cartridges containing the razor blades. They've got a ball and chain attached to them. They've got alarms on them because they cost $50, $60, $80, $100, $250 each sometimes. Have you bought any of those $250 razor cartridges?
No, that's not from me. Luckily, I subscribe to Harry's.
Well, that's true because you can get the trial kit from Harry's, which is basically a beautiful 5-blade razor with a weighted, ergonomically designed handle, the foaming shave gel, and travel cover for $3. If you go to harrys.com/JCE, now that's HARRYS.com/JCE. There's no apostrophe, by the way, in the Harry's, just flat out like it is. And if you like that trial set that regularly goes for $13, then you can sign up and you can get this stuff delivered to you. You don't even need to leave the house. And it's a no-risk trial because if you don't like the way that it makes you feel and look, then you can cancel at any time. It's on them. It's all their fault. They admit it. Brian, have you made them admit anything yet?
They don't need to admit a thing. I'm happy with Harry's. They've done a great job for me so far.
And that's why they call him Happy Harry.
Who calls him that?
Well, everybody that knows him, folks around town.
Did you ever play Leisure Suit Larry?
No, I never played with Leisure Suit Larry. Did he play nice?
Well, let's talk about Harry. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, Larry's different than Harry. But Larry used to be Harry, but then he got the shave company going. Anyway, and if you like this stuff that we're talking about, they've also got other self-care products. And you need to take care of yourself because if you don't, who else is going to? They've got lathering, skin-softening body wash, and designer scents. They've got extra strength, high quality, amazing smelling deodorant that will deodorize you. As a matter of fact, Moxley started wearing this stuff. He completely disappeared. And other hair and grooming products that fit unique looks and needs. And some of you people out there, we've seen you. You look unique. So right now, snap into it, baby. Get the edge on your shave with Harry's. Get started with that $13 trial set you're going to get for just $3. That's not even $1 a week to keep a slick face. Harrys.com/JCE. Harrys.com/JCE. And shave it like you own it.
Well, Jim, speaking of close shaves, let's talk about some other topics in wrestling and, of course, outside of wrestling, too. One of the ones that, I guess because you've commented on it in the past, and also it somehow is very, not somehow, for reasons that are obvious, it's a little reminiscent of some of the Vince McMahon stuff. What do you think of the arrest this past week of Sean Combs, P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Diddy? I think he changed his name to Love once, which is crazy considering all these stories about how he shared his love, apparently. At parties he called freakouts, where for days at a time, loaded on drugs, being secretly videotaped, with, I would assume, a good amount considering they recovered 1,000 bottles of lube and baby oil from his house. I'm guessing there was a lot of lathering up happening there.
You know, if somebody hadn't heard about this story, they're going, what the fuck is he talking about?
Well, I'll stop now and we'll expand from here. What are your thoughts on the arrest of P. Diddy and the chance that he may never see freedom again?
Well, we have talked about Daddy Diddy and all the little itty-bitty ditties in the past on the program, and I was not familiar with a lot of Diddy's work or his music or his whatever the heck else he's been involved in. But now suddenly, boom, they came down, swooped down, the feds, and arrested him for not only sex trafficking and drug trafficking, traffic violations, arson is in there, assault.
RICO.
A conspiracy, racketeering, whatever the fuck. I don't know, but I'll tell you one thing. Finding heroin is one thing, or finding illegal stockpiles of weapons is another thing, but goddamn, it's hard to talk your way out of it when they find you with 1,000 bottles of lube, isn't it?
See, let's stop right there, because let's just say we were going to have an orgy, right?
Oh, well, you can go ahead and say it. I'm reserving comment till I find out who else besides you is attending.
I'm not saying I'm going to attend, but let's say there's an orgy and we're part of the party team, I guess.
The cast. We're in the cast.
If you're going to have, let's say, 8 people, how many bottles of baby oil or lube would that be? How much lube is needed, right? Doesn't a little bit go a long way? Isn't that the point of lube?
Well, that used to be one of their commercial taglines, a little dab will do ya, on the Astroglide. But I would think that even if you're going for 2 or 3 days on all these wild wonder drugs that were apparently being passed around, that still one bottle of lube, well, it depends on the size, but I saw pictures of bottles of lube that looked pretty good size. These weren't like pocket or purse.
Wait, were those his, or was it just a generic photo of bottles of lube?
Well, no, it was the bottles of lube that the FBI... Do you think that's the first time the FBI ever had to confiscate bottles of lube?
Do they have to, like, sit down with a pen and write down what's baby oil and what's KY jelly?
They gotta inventory everything, but I would think that one bottle of lube per person would do you for a couple of days because, after a while, you don't have to reapply that shit that often. So was he having 1,000? Where was he holding this thing? The Jaffa Mosque in fucking Pennsylvania?
Well, no, apparently he was doing it at times, at least in hotels, because there was some hotel in New York that after this story broke said that, like, yeah, he had to pay, I want to say $50,000 to repair a giant room that everything was covered in baby oil. So he brought it into the hotel. I guess that's another thing. Someone had to carry a bunch of lube and baby oil into the hotel.
Well, so what are the fucking bellhops down there going, oh, wait, that's just Diddy's people carrying in his baby oil.
And
that's
drugs.
what that hand truck is.
And apparently drugs. Apparently there were drugs and lube and all sorts of who knows what. And again, secret cameras.
And you got to steam clean those carpets and the drapes to get the lube out of that hotel room.
If you have to replace the drapes, that's expensive. There are no cheap drapes.
No. So right there, but now here's another thing, though. He is a wealthy man, is Diddy, because he was offering it. They don't want to hold it. They don't want to let him out on bail. They want to hold him.
Well, they are holding him. This has been determined now. They're not letting him out on bail.
Yes, that's why I said they don't want to let him out on bail. They want to hold him because he's got more money than the federal government. They figure he can just fly away to a private island or whatever. But he was saying he would put $50 million bail up. That he wouldn't go anywhere. What would that be? Would that be a 10th or a 20th of the money that he's got? Maybe.
Well, it's hard to say because, again, what he's got, what is that?
Well, it might be chlamydia, too, as we find out now.
I guess the point is a lot of the revenue streams are drying up.
See, that's why he needed the lube.
All right,
But here's the thing. He's got all that money. Here's the point I was going to make with this. He's got all that money. Why did he need to buy the lube from Costco in bulk? Why couldn't he just buy, as he's having a freak out or a fuck off or whatever it was, why didn't he just buy the lube needed for that individual freak out or fuck off? Why did he have to buy and stockpile? Then he's got evidence against him, and also...
Maybe he got a good deal in bulk.
Well, yeah, but he's rich. He doesn't need to buy in bulk. I mean, only the poor people that have orgies with 75 or 100 people need to buy the lube in bulk. There's a lot of bad judgment went into this all the way around.
And apparently at these parties, and again, stories are now coming out, and it's one thing hearing stories about Diddy, because I heard things way back when I was in the music industry, but not like this. But stories are now coming out from people who were there. I just saw an interview with some, I guess, male prostitute who was arrested a few years ago for shooting up Trump's golf course.
Was his name Deuce Bigelow?
It wasn't Deuce Bigelow, but he had shot up Trump's golf course and they arrested him.
How do you shoot up a golf course? I'm gonna nail that hole in one, bam, bam. But what?
Well, apparently when he was being...
Did he get stiffed by Trump too? I mean, not paid.
When he was being interviewed, he started saying how, yeah, they brought him in to have sex with, Cassie in front of Puff Daddy, and Puff Daddy would sit there and masturbate, and he went to these parties, and Rick Ross and Puffy are gay, and there were all these big rappers having sex with each other.
Rick Ross, wasn't he that big motherfucker on AEW TV?
Well, no, he called out the big motherfucker. That was Keith Lee who... Where's he?
Well, he was a pretty good-sized son of a bitch himself.
Well, again, this is according to the stories that are now going out, and they're coming out in articles. And again, There are accusations that apparently at these parties you would have male rappers having sex with each other, which again, it changes the way you see a lot of the guys who are acting real hard on like their ladies' men if they're all just getting bombed with Puffy and fucking each other.
Well, and I know somebody out there goes, oh, lives have been damaged by this horrible activity. I don't give a fuck who's in goddamn Diddy Daddy's social circle, or if you were hanging around Daddy Diddy and any of the little itty bitty ditties, you're probably fucking nuts too.
How worried do you think celebrities, rappers, musicians, whoever it may be, politicians maybe, how worried do you think they are? Just like a Jeffrey Epstein kind of thing where apparently it's not about a flight log, it's about videotapes. There's video evidence of who was at these freak-offs that he was secretly recording.
Well, now, are these all innocent victims and or professionally paid individuals, or are there stories of celebrities and public figures being mixed into these videos?
Reportedly celebrities and public figures being at these parties freaking off.
Well, in that case, they're probably going to be freaking out.
Well, we will
and
see.
I'll tell you one thing. I haven't been to any of Daddy Diddy's parties since the home video came into being.
Well, we will see what happens with Diddy.
But back in the 60s, me and Diddy's daddy, we had fun.
No, Diddy's daddy was a connected guy. He was hooked up with Frank Lucas.
So he hooked up with Frank Lucas, so they're all just having sex indiscriminately.
That's not what I'm saying. All right, well, let's move on from this pervert to another pervert. Jim, in advance of this next week, Netflix releasing the Vince McMahon docuseries, 6 episodes. What are your thoughts going into it about what's about to happen, what we're about to hear? We don't know what the story will be. A lot of people are afraid it'll be WWE whitewashing everything. And other people are thinking maybe there will be people admitting that Vince was a fucked up guy in this Vince McMahon documentary.
Well, I'm interested because I've heard some people have said, oh, it's a big burial of Vince, and, they're just digging into him, and maybe that's true. It is going to be that, or maybe they're preparing people. So if it's not that bad, they'll think, well, if that's a big burial, then maybe he's not so bad. Who knows, right? Till we see it. But the point is, I got a problem with these Netflix people. And you know this. I told you this. I'm going to now tell the world. They are debuting. It's not like a 6-part series where you get to watch a part once a week. And it's not like a debut of a television program where 8 o'clock Eastern time, right here on CBS, Netflix is putting all 6 of these episodes up at the same time at 3 o'clock in the morning. And you claim to me that there is a strategy for that, but I think that's stupid as shit. What kind of goddamn big event? The Super Bowl, the goddamn Oscars, the opening of an all-night gas station. What happens at 3 o'clock in a fucking morning?
The freak off.
Besides that.
Well, again, it's 3 o'clock in the morning East Coast. That would be midnight on the West Coast. People are still up. And
who wants to start a 6-hour goddamn deal at midnight?
And it sets it up so that if you are an interested party, you can wake up that morning and immediately lay in bed and watch the whole series. You know there's going to be people watching the series. By the time we wake up, there's going to be some crazy wrestling fan who's already watched the whole thing, and they ran the Twitter to get shit out first.
Who has a life bereft of responsibility to such an extent that they can get up on a Thursday morning in the middle of a weekday and watch 6 hours of television starting at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning?
Wrestling Twitter.
You got me there. All right.
Did you see the comments that, and I don't know when exactly this is from, but this was sent to me by a bunch of people on Twitter. The Chael Sonnen comments about Vince McMahon?
I heard something about it, but I'm willing to be filled in with more detail.
All right, let me just double check to make sure this is a...
And by the way, while you're double checking, what I'm going to say, or was going to say, is that we are going to cover this on next week's, it's going to be the Drive Thru, and we'll have some other things on as well, but it will be a special episode devoted to the Vince mini series that we're going to get out as quickly as possible after we get up Wednesday morning or Thursday morning at 9 o'clock and watch this fucking thing or whatever day it is.
All right, let's go to audio. Apparently this is, it says here, courtesy of Flagrant, which I'm guessing is a show. It's Chael Sonnen with 4 other men on a couch. It's like The View, but...
Wait a minute. Now, what do you got more men on a couch now? This is, program is degenerating.
Well, let's play this. The clip says, Chael Sonnen exposes Vince McMahon for sleeping with men with Andrew Schultz.
A year ago, Vince just got hit. It was like 6 months ago. I'm making up a number, but it kind of feels like about 6 months ago. And I told Jim Roman, it was the middle of a smack off where you're talking trash anyway, but I said, I never met Vince, and I know 11 people that he slept with, 8 of them men, all 8 of them women, all consenting adults. So, which is the implication. Wow. But that's true. That wasn't the joke. And Jim wouldn't run it. It was too hot. He said, man, we can't do it. Like, oh, Jim, I wasn't joking. I was talking trash, but I wasn't joking. Yeah. And anyway, I mean, when Vince got Me Too'd out of the business, I did think it was a surprise. But as good as he is, I would not completely count that he couldn't come back. When the men start coming out, it will be a different story.
Wait, he used to bang dudes a lot?
Oh, yeah. But he would hold their careers over them, just like he would the women. It was the same thing. You get paid more, you get pushed more. This is not a secret in the industry. Like, I'm not talking trash. Right? Yeah, not at all am I talking trash. This was very well known. Sure.
Yeah, very well known.
Yeah. But I mean, Shawn Michaels, like guys that you would know. There was things.
Wait, he was banging Shawn Michaels?
Yeah, well, or whatever it is that they, but yeah, they had their relationship.
Shawn Michaels was pretty good.
Because you're wondering if I'm like,
let me pause this for a second. I've not sped this up, and I've not really had a point to stop it. It's just been rapid fire.
And once again, we'd like to thank our sponsors, the Meth Manufacturers Association of America. No, and I love you, Chael. Now, Chael and I have had pleasant conversations, but Chael is a remarkable, a stunningly accomplished self-promoter. And he's a very smart guy. I don't know that Shawn Michaels, for one, would just come up to Chael Sonnen, and I'm not even sure they're in the same social circles, and say, by the way, I really hated it when I used to have to bang Vince. Or what?
You don't think it would be Vince banging him?
Well, whichever terminology you're using, the banger or the bangee. No, it's not. It's not well known in the industry. It's one of those well circulated rumors to try to explain Vince's
love of the boy toy, Shawn Michaels.
No, his suffering of Shawn's picadillos and fucking bullshit. His putting up with Shawn Michaels, people tried to explain it that way. But I'm sorry, but of all of the things, honestly, if that was revealed to be a fact, I would be more surprised than I was when I found out that Vince was being sued for taking a poop on somebody's head. Because, the old joke, well, I won't even, the old joke. But nevertheless, no, I'm sorry, but I don't buy this. But I think it's going to get Chael a lot of people talking about it and publicity as we are right now.
Well, again, and I don't know exactly when this is from. It just went up on Twitter the other day from an account, Isaac's Army, on Twitter.
Well, that's got to be reliable.
Let's hear the last few seconds of this.
It's like doing a bit.
Long hair. Long hair.
Oh, I guess that was it right there. He didn't just say men. He said it was a bunch of women, too.
Well, now, I believe that wholeheartedly. Because that's been somewhat documented, if not by Chael, and he didn't mention any names, by all the paperwork and variety of payoffs and things that have gone on. But we haven't found any men that have been paid off or signed NDAs or kept quiet. And I'm sorry, I just don't see Shawn and Chael sitting down and having that conversation. If it ever did happen, I don't believe it would be bandied about in idle chatter. So
do you see Vince having freak-offs with women and other top guys?
Again, what do you call a top guy? John Laurinaitis,
John
I would never.
Cena.
No. Just because of knowing John Cena. John Laurinaitis, I wouldn't call a top guy, but I can believe he'd do it. that was not the most surprising part of that lawsuit to me.
Right.
What
about Sean? If someone said, if it came out in an investigation now, all these years later, that in the 90s, they weren't necessarily sleeping together, but Vince and Sean would chase women together, would that surprise you?
That would surprise me, not only because at that time, everybody was keeping a pretty good eye on Vince and everybody was keeping a pretty good eye on Sean, and they weren't crossing paths on a personal level that much. But also at that point in time, I can't see Shawn Michaels when he was dallying with one of his army of groupies wanting that old man around to fucking be, Mr. Blanket, first name Wet type of thing. I can't see, no. A lot of the guys in those days, in the 80s, he'd try to go out to the bars with them, and Vince, that is, and they'd give him their finish and all that stuff. But in the 90s, he wasn't going to the bars with the boys, and they weren't inviting him or trying to talk him out of not going. So anyway, yeah, more interesting stuff, but I don't buy that one.
Well, like you said, we'll be reviewing the episodes of the Vince McMahon documentary in the next week. Looking forward to watching that.
And now here's another thing. You said John Cena. Instantly, I could say no. You said, if you'd have said Brock Lesnar, at first, I might have said no because he's a fucking farm boy. He just wants to be in Saskatoon and he doesn't really like to get out in public, but I can buy that. If you said Batista, I'd say, oh, fuck you. So it just depends on the individual, but no, I don't see any of that.
Well, we shall see. Jim, another story this past week that a lot of people have been sending over different things. I got to see if there's anything comprehensive here.
Or comprehensive or that you can comprehend.
Have you been following the Logan Paul Kevin Nash feud?
Apparently, Logan Paul said something really stupid, and Nash made fun of him about it. And then Logan Paul responded with, "Well, I'm better than you were."
Well, let's have some.
That's my superficial understanding.
Apparently, it started when Logan Paul interviewed Hulk Hogan, and in the interview, either didn't know what the word shoot meant or pretended not to know what the word shoot meant.
That's right. That's right. That's what it was.
Apparently, Kevin Nash, here's a comment from him. He's not one of the boys. Where would he even learn that shit at? Where's he going up and down talking jargon? In the building? Everyone is in their own motor coach. There is no interaction. There is no socialization. You don't become one of the boys just because you're around them. From what I heard, he's making $5 million for limited dates, and all those other guys are out there making house shows. Fuck you. Fuck you. That's from the boys. Fuck you. I don't give a fuck how many people are following you. If you said you had 24 million Rhodes Scholars following you, you're fucking Jesus. You have a bunch of idiots. So again, there was Kevin Nash reacting to apparently Logan Paul not knowing jargon. Is that jargon that at this point in time you even need to be deep into the business to know? I've got to think he was pulling somebody's leg, because I don't see how you could walk into the building and not know what a shoot means. And since everything is kayfabe is in the goddamn dictionary now, right? The Urban Dictionary, or is it the real dictionary? It may be the real one. I'm not sure. Yeah, so it's not like these are the guarded terms they once were. And if you know what a work is, and he would have to know what that is, because I'm pretty sure, as stiff as he probably was when he first got into business, a lot of guys, hey, we're working here. Then you would have to know what a shoot is. And I don't see, was he just playing dumb, doing a bit, or what? Because otherwise you're a complete imbecile. If that's like, being a dentist and not knowing how to use a toothbrush. That's kind of the first thing you'd pick up, wouldn't it be? You would imagine. Yes, but let's get some audio here. Logan Paul responding to Kevin Nash. He is shirtless, and I Apparently, maybe in the forest. I'm not sure where he is. Let's go to this right here.
I got people messaging me. They're like, yo, Kevin Nash is talking shit about you. I said, damn. Who is Kevin Nash? And I mean that. I'm unfamiliar with this guy, which I think is his problem. I'm not as versed in the WWE and in wrestling as maybe I should be, as my peers are. But then how am I so much better than all of them? You know, I don't have the answers to these questions. It is a question. I don't know how I could be the best in the WWE or at least one of the best. Like, I'm surely a top fiver, and I don't even do it full time. Now imagine if I did learn a little bit. Imagine if I devoted, came one of the boys, learned what the difference between a shoot and a work was. Will that make me a champion? Fuck me. Fuck you. You're one of the old guys who is bitter that I am better at your job than you ever were. And that makes you pathetic. This will be my sport, and I will continue to make guys like you eat your words when I devote a little bit of time to it. So fuck me, fuck you.
Well, there it is. Logan Paul responding to Kevin Nash. What do you think of that?
Well, you know, here's the thing. He is a brilliant heel because he knows instinctively how to be an asshole and say the right things to piss people off. And we've said that. And obviously he knows who Kevin Nash is because you couldn't walk into goddamn WWE office and not see pictures on the fucking wall, right? If you've watched any television program. So he's working that. Maybe he just said, so I don't know the difference between a work and a shoot. Well, apparently he does now to somebody who's smarting him up or whatever. But he's a great heel and he's saying that shit because he knows Nash has fans and it'll piss all of them off. And I got to be honest with you. If you're talking about somebody who gets paid a lot of money for limited dates, Nash was pretty much a trailblazer, Logan. And counting inflation into, he may be on your fucking tail or right up there with you, nose and nose, neck and neck. You know,
that's a very good point. That's a very good point.
And Logan Paul is a better in-ring performer, but I don't know if he's ever going to be as smart to the wrestling business, even if he knows what a work and a shoot is and all that stuff, as Nash was. And so Nash had very good points about a lot of the guys that are getting the business these days. A lot of them, you know, the money is different and the way that they're treated is different now. And they've got motor coaches or they've got private dressing rooms or whatever. And you don't get to learn how to be one of the boys. But that's not just limited to Logan Paul. There's a lot of these guys that ain't boys. So I think we got a little bit of a heel program here. I think Nash was in the right for responding to Logan Paul in that way. If it was actually legitimately real that Logan Paul didn't even know what a shoot was. But I think Logan Paul did a good job in answering as a heel because he said exactly everything you would say if you were trying to be a heel. Yeah, I'm good at this and I don't even try. Imagine when I do try, I'll get even better. What a fucking arrogant, obnoxious asshole. That's perfect.
If he was telling the truth, and he may have just said it just to be, you know, part of this promo, but should he know who Kevin Nash is?
Well, again, is there a baseball player playing on a team today that doesn't know who Willie Mays or Mickey Mantle was? Even if you never meet him personally.
I mean, you would think he would either know Diesel, Kevin Nash, or NWO. That's all you need to know.
If you walk into the WWE office, you're going to see pictures of this person on the wall. If you watch any of the programming about the WWE, including some of the programs you're on, they will have highlights of these things. Or the biography, or the this or that, or the NWO, or whatever the fuck. You watch Peacock. You pick up a fucking wrestling magazine. You're on an interview on a fucking podcast or a website with people talking about wrestling. No, you couldn't. He might not have heard of Carl Fergie. I'll give him that one. But there ain't no way Logan Paul hadn't heard of Kevin Nash.
Like, does that make him look good saying, I don't know who Kevin Nash is? Is that worse than not knowing what a shoot is?
Well, no, because it gets him heat with the wrestling fans for being a fucking obnoxious piece of shit. So whether it's true or not, that's what he should say as an obnoxious heel.
Well, Kevin Nash responded. I have a few quotes here. If you watch it back, I didn't say fuck you. I said fuck you for the boys. I guess I'm one of the boys, so yeah, I guess technically. But I don't have a dog in the race, man. I don't have anything in the race. I love the fact that the boys are making that kind of money. It's just that the rebuttal, I just took it in character when we talked about it and just did what you do. You just embellish a little bit because we get a soundbite out of this. Okay, I guess he's just saying that he started up to get a soundbite. I'm not sure what he's saying.
I'm not sure about that.
Well, here's Kevin Nash on Logan Paul practicing. I asked a person that's been in the ring with him, how is he? He said he's amazing as far as what he could do physically. He just doesn't remember anything.
Oh, that is something that is a trait with some people.
I don't know how much truth there is to this or not, but they brought a ring down and brought a couple of trainers or boys, and they go through his matches. Maybe he said he should get more depth of knowing the history. He's smart as fuck because Puerto Rico, I want to think there's like a 4% tax or some shit there. So I guess he lives in Puerto Rico because of the tax situation, and WWE has sent down a ring and trainers to work with him for his matches. Let me stop there.
He lives in Puerto Rico on purpose. Every wrestler I've ever known that went to Puerto Rico couldn't wait to get back. They called it island fever. Get me the fuck out of this place.
Does that change anything about what you think about Logan Paul? The idea that he's practicing matches move for move, maybe? Or at least...
Well, no, I figured that. I mean, they walk through matches amongst experienced professionals these days before TVs, both for camera angles or entrances or run-ins or positioning, whatever the fuck. No, I was assuming that they were working with him heavily on these matches. What I think that Logan Paul has a talent that is a natural, it's not easy to teach, not only his athleticism, but the way he reacts to things in the ring. You can't practice reactions, or you can't practice just having heel instincts like saying these things and getting people fired up and getting us to talk about him. He's a really obnoxious, fucking arrogant, pompous bastard. And I like that about him. Now that recently, he may very well be a Trump fuck, in which case that diminished his appeal to me greatly in my eyes, but you still got to recognize when he has a talent for something. But as far as doing those 20-minute matches, they weren't calling those in the ring. I don't even think the main events amongst the very most experienced guys are called in the ring anymore. But
well, on that topic, let me finish the last quote I have here. You're not a top 5 guy if you can't. When I was 42 years old, if you can't go out there and I'm sitting at home in the dressing room drinking beer and we got 12 minutes and they give us the finish and your music plays and mine plays, you're not one of the top 5 guys if you don't know what the fuck we're doing. If you can't just go out there and call it. He has to be reminded. So that answers your, or at least...
Yeah. Well, and see, that's the thing. Even let's say Cody and Roman Reigns is the main event. They're going to work that match out. That's not to say that they either one couldn't go in the ring and call one or call the same match, but they're still going to work on it ahead of time. But guys who are not at that level of experience are going to have to work on it more. And there needs to be a leader. And remember, one of the Logan Paul matches we didn't really understand and didn't really enjoy was Ricochet, because he wasn't a main event guy and there was no real leader. They just wanted to do fancy moves and dive at each other. So Logan Paul, he needs a leader and he needs practice. And at this level of his experience, he should, because he didn't train the normal way. But that doesn't diminish Nash's point that you can't really be one of the top guys in the company if you can't go out and do this from scratch.
Well, Jim, maybe Logan Paul can reach out to a wrestling veteran for some help, learn how to have the instincts to call it in the ring. Maybe he needs to call somebody and maybe needs a good phone plan.
Well, if you need to call it in the ring, you got to call somebody that knows how to call it in the ring. And then they'll tell you how to call it. So you know who you need to call? Mint Mobile. Because you don't even just have to call, you can text. Because with Mint Mobile, folks, they're here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. And all these plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text. So you can text Logan Paul and say one tackle, drop down, hip toss, drop kick, powder out. Or you can call and you can say one tackle, drop down, get it again, take me over. You can call all the spots you want to call by either written communication or actual verbal communication on the nation's largest 5G network. Brian, what is a 5G network?
It's bigger than a 4G network, I'll tell you that.
Well, there you go, and they got one. And the Mint Mobile wireless plan start at just $15 a month, so you're not going to spend all your money. You can use your own phone on any of the Mint Mobile plans. You can use your own phone number. As a matter of fact, for an extra premium cost, you can use other people's phone numbers. You can just say, on Tuesday, I'd like you to forward Dolores's calls over to me, and they'll do it.
It don't work like that, and you shouldn't want that. You should just want the best for yourself with Mint Mobile.
Well, they give you a lot of personal service. And you can ditch the overpriced wireless, get 3 months of premium wireless service, $15 a month. It totals $45. That's 15 times 3. And all you got to do to get this new customer offer is go to mintmobile.com/JCE, mintmobile.com/JCE. And here's the thing. Maybe take your cell phone, you know, they make those things so small these days, and stick it in the crotch of your tights. And that way, when you're out there in the ring, you can have somebody that knows what they're doing call you and call the match for you. And all you have to do is keep one ear on your crotch. And that way they can walk you through the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but get a great phone plan with Mint Mobile. Use your own phone. Do whatever you want. Be in control with Mint Mobile. What's that promo code, Jim?
JCE. Every time you see Logan Paul in a match and his opponent gets him in a head scissors, he's listening to the Mint Mobile phone plan in the guy's tights telling him what to do. And then he nips up and does the spot. Also, you'll see a lot of men are putting their heads in other men's laps these days.
I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but you could find out what other people are talking about when you call them or accept the phone call with Mint Mobile. What's that promo code, Jim?
JCE. And you know, that's the thing is that if you stick that phone in your pocket or in the crotch of your tights or whatever, then anybody that puts their head within about a 3-foot radius of your crotch will be able to hear what's going on.
Oh, you hear that music. You know what that means? We got to wrap it up with Mint Mobile. One more time, Jim. What's that promo code?
JCE.
That's right.
Phones in the crotch for everybody.
Phones in your hands, to your head, talking to your people with Mint Mobile. My pen is snapping if you hear that. Sorry, everyone.
Phones in your hands to your head.
All right, well, Jim.
Looking like a fool with your pants on the ground.
A couple more things before we get out of here. A few people sent over a question about this. I don't know if the video went around, so let me ask you. This was sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Andrew. The same week of the last Stampede, Jim Crockett Promotions booked the African-American brother duo, the Dargan Twins, as the Midnight Express on
Leroy
TV.
and Luther Dargan. I haven't heard those names in 30 years.
They were billed as the Midnight Express on TV.
Are you kidding?
Well, the question is, was that perhaps a rib on Watts for pushing black talent? I don't know why the person thinks it would be that. Or was this...
Sounds like it's a rib on us.
Well, the thoughts on using the name the same time Eaton and Condrey were breaking out as stars in Mid-South.
You know what? I had never heard that, and I guarantee you that was completely coincidental and accidental. The Dargan twins, they were two black guys. They were twins, right? Leroy and Luther, and they had a very brief wrestling career, but I remember they were in the Carolinas, and also I think they worked Continental for a while or somewhere down south. The last Stampede was April or May of 1984, depending on what Stampede event. We shot the angle in March. By the time it played on TV, it was the end of March. So I think it was complete coincidence. They probably saw two black guys in the Carolinas at times. Hey, let's call them the Midnight Express. And then they realized there was another one. And because Dusty, what was that? Dusty was down and worked with us at the August Superdome. But he heard about the match before that. It may have been close to a period of time where they were just hearing about us over there. Flair had been in, I think, over the summer in Oklahoma at least. So, but yeah, there was a time where, except for the movie, the Midnight Express had no meaning in wrestling. And then only in Alabama and Tennessee, because Dennis and Randy and Norvell had done the thing in Continental and in Memphis, but nowhere else. So coincidence, I believe. Now, if they'd have kept it up till we came in, I'd have been pissed. Because then that was always why I was told that Tom Renesto and Jody Hamilton, the Assassins, when they went to the Carolinas, they were called the Bolos rather than the Assassins, because there had been outlaw assassins in the territory, and the name was kind of bleh because of them. So if we'd have tried to come in as the Midnight Express and there'd been an underneath team called the Midnight Express there for a year, that wouldn't have fucking worked, would it? Maybe they saw us and said, let's change it.
And we'll see what more we can find out. Maybe there's some video. The fact that people are sending this to us makes me think there must be some video. But, Jim, on that topic, I have a list here in front of me. These are the reported trademarks that have been filed by Chris Jericho.
Oh, boy.
Trying to get to the top of this is a big list.
The list of Jericho trademarks.
Well, let's get your thoughts on some of these trademarks. Hi, guys. Recently trademarked.
What the fuck? How can you trademark Hi Guys?
The Jericho Vortex has been trademarked, as well as the Learning Tree and the Educator.
The Educator.
The Rarefied Air of Jericho has been trademarked, as well as Seek and Destroy,
What the?
Jericho Juice, and Judas Juice. This next one's interesting.
Wait a minute, Brian, you know, before we go any further with the list, you know as well as I do, because we both trademarked some things. It's not free. You can't just say, I want to file that. You have to fill out paperwork, pay somebody to do it, a filing fee, etc., depending on how far you want to go with it, or how, you know, how narrowed down you want it to be for goods and services, whatever. It's ongoing. How much money is he spending just to indulge all of these goofy ideas he's having? Is any of this ever going to be monetized?
Probably not, but there also are friendly wrestling attorneys who just want to be around the wrestlers, so they'll do some stuff, and specifically around trademarks, from what I've heard. Gas Wrestling, under trademark. Gas Wrestling.
Gas wrestling? What, wrestling that gives you gas? What is gas wrestling?
Or everyone's on steroids. I'd like to see that. The Jericho Era is under trademark.
How about the Jericho Error?
Well, no, that's not this one. This is the Jericho Era. This was trademarked in November 2023. The Golden Jets. You may remember that tag team of him and Kenny Omega, I think.
Yeah, but then they were broken up for the Golden Lovers, Ibushi and Olivier, so that they could be in adjoining hospital beds recovering on Tony's dime.
Also filed for trademark by Chris Jericho in 2023. Babyface Assassin Productions. Babyface
Limited.
Assassin. Also, I don't know what this is. One word. Duck Trillion. Duck Trillion. One word. Not sure what that was. Maybe a bender. But these two, this is an interesting concept from May of 2023. Fozzy Fest or Foz Fest. I guess he couldn't decide, and he hadn't used any.
Well, it wasn't hard
yet.
it wasn't hard for Ozzy to decide. Why is it hard for him to decide?
Before that, in 2023, the first filing of the year was for Jericho. The purported tag team of him and the Big Show, I believe.
That went a long way. They went down in history with Bockwinkel and Stevens.
Here are some interesting ones. In 2022, Christery.
Wait a minute, that's Kiss's fucking.
No, that's Kistery. This is Christery, not Kistery.
But it's the same goddamn thing.
A money grab? Maybe. What about Seltzer Man? Seltzer Man.
Seltzer Man?
I guess when you have to sober up. Here comes the Seltzer Man to sober us up.
You watch his matches and it gives you indigestion and you need a seltzer? What about Bromide Man? How about good Lord.
The same day
Metamucil Man.
The same day he filed for Christery, he also filed for This Day in Christery. Also, he filed for the Ring of Jericho and Chris Jericho's Blood Boat. Blood Boat.
Wait a minute. I know he does the cruises, but do you want to go on a cruise where it's entitled the Blood Boat? Especially with the history of cruise ships and having outbreaks of various diseases of ill repute?
Maybe you should trademark the Chris Jericho blood tests with that. But also here, the Ocho. You remember the Ocho? That was in October of 2022. The Ocho.
Yes, he had done something 8 times.
Also, in 2022, The Watch. The Watch. The Wizard. You remember the Wizard?
Remember the Wizard? What after the Ocho? Shouldn't he have been the Nacho? What's 9?
Sure. Well, this is technically before that. We're going backwards.
We're going backwards. So is he.
Well, you may remember these two from March of 2022, JAS and Jericho Appreciation Society.
Boy, how could we forget those? That was a big pill to swallow.
The Influencer.
A lot of people want to be those, I understand.
Here's another one you may remember from its brief run before John Moxley spoiled that. GFY. GFY, you remember that?
Yeah, and for the younger listeners, Jericho trademarked and was going to make an interview deal out of GFY, which basically stands for Go Fuck Yourself. And the same week on TV, Moxley just had Tourette's and blurted out on television for no apparent purpose, "Oh, go fuck yourself." And it kind of put the damper on that. Mr. Blanket, first name Wet.
We are now in 2021. There's an image here, the image of Chris Jericho as the Painmaker with his hat and his Alice Cooper makeup and his spiky jacket and everything else there. God of War. God of War was trademarked in 2021, as well as the Rock of Jericho.
Oh.
The Rock of Jericho. Come on. A name from the past, Corazon de Leon. Trademark, that was his name in CMLL, yeah.
I can see that. He actually campaigned and competed under that name.
Not sure about this next one, Clint Bobski.
What?
Clint Bobski. Clint, the name Clint, and then Bobski, Bob, Bobski.
Did he have like another idea for a stooge like Ralphus? Or
I'm not sure, but obviously things changed from what he thought in the past, because the next one from 2020, Million Viewer Man.
No!
That hasn't aged so well. The Million Viewer Man, Chris Jericho.
He wouldn't be able to give the supporting documentation on that one to get that trademark pushed through.
Here's an interesting one. Mimosa Mayhem. That was the match he had with Orange Cassidy. It was an AEW match. What do you think of AEW allowing the wrestler to trademark the gimmick they used on their show?
You know what, I bet you? I don't know anything. I don't know it for a fact, so you ain't heard it from me, but knowing that Tony Khan is predisposed to be entertained in his childlike mind with whatever's going on up there by that fucking goof Pockets, and he dressed up like the idiot for Halloween, and he books him to beat everybody in the company, legitimate wrestlers, and he puts him on TV constantly. And it was never funny to begin with, and it's long past stale. But Jericho saw that and said, not only am I going to come up with Orange Cassidy's signature match like Wahoo and the strap match or Ivan Koloff in a chain match, but then I'm going to trademark it. So every time Tony books one for his favorite little comedy figure, he's got to pay me something. Do you think that's what he was doing? But it was such a stinker, they never had another one?
I think you could argue to this day that no one has better manipulated Tony Khan for their own benefit than Chris Jericho in AEW history. So I don't know. But we have more.
I'd like to say the Hardley boys are giving him competition there, but go ahead. Let's hear more.
He gets more money than they do. The Painmaker, you may remember the Painmaker.
Yes.
Demo God. Remember when that was a thing?
I remember that.
Doesn't really brag about that one anymore. Now he's the bathroom line god. The Wheel Blocks. The Wheel Blocks from 2020.
The Wheel Blocks.
Not sure. Thank God we never found out what this is. Gig Pigs. Gig Pigs. Are those what he calls his ring rats? The Gig Pigs?
That man, you know what? There you go. They're the girls that like Fozzy and wrestling, and they come to both of his gigs.
Well, here's some interesting ones during the pandemic. Grains and Greens. Grains and Greens. And then, and I'll spell it for you, Quarantine.
They used to be one of our sponsors, didn't they? Or that was another type
That was a
of
different
greens.
company. Well, here's another one, and I'll spell this one out for you in a moment. Quarantine. 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 During the pandemic, that's what we needed, a wrestler named Quarantine. Also, there's a few more here, Jim. The Bubbly Bunch. The Bubbly Bunch.
A little bit of the bubbly.
Also, Flim Flam. Flim Flam.
Boy, now I'll tell you, nobody in that company has a fucking copyright on Flim Flam. They're all practitioners.
There's still more. The podcast he used to do, Talk is Jericho. I don't know if he still does it, actually, maybe. Talk is Jericho. That's trademarked. That makes sense. Also, the Chris Jericho Rock and Wrestling Rager at Sea.
That makes sense. It's very long, but it's what he does on his blood boat.
Fozzy. He owns the trademark to Fozzy, according to this.
Well, because everybody in the band is... all they are the musicians. Nobody knows who they are, so he's the star.
Painmaker Posse. The Painmaker Posse. Any thoughts if that would have worked?
I'd like to see if they would misspell that just a little bit on the application, like AEW did on one of its applications before, so we could get the Painmaker Pussy.
Well, shortly after AEW started, October, or on TV at least, October 2019, he trademarked two things, the Painmaker and the Inner Circle. You may remember that.
The first big group that he was able to sap energy and life-sustaining force off of.
A few more here. A little bit of the Bubbly, Rock and Wrestling Rager, and finally Chris Jericho. He owns the trademark to Chris Jericho.
Well, that one was probably easy. I don't know if anybody's fighting him over that one these days.
You know, it's one thing if you're going to use these things in commerce. It's another thing if you're just trademarking anything that comes into your head. It's not the way it's supposed to work. But any thoughts on this? And
well, yes, again, it takes time and effort. And even if he's got some mark doing it for him for nothing, that's a lot of shit to go through for just vague concepts and blurted out words, isn't it?
It certainly is. And I didn't give credit to the person who sent this in. Danny in Wigan, England, or Wigan, England.
Wigan?
Excuse me.
You, of all people, can't pronounce Wigan?
I haven't seen it in a while. Wigan, England. And that's...
If Billy Riley had his way, you wouldn't see it at all.
Well, Jim, before we wrap things up today, I want to talk a little bit about some retro action figures, because I've got a flood of them right here. And one of them I know you have, from the Zombie Sailor figure line, the brand new Hercules Hernandez figure, wearing the t-shirt from Power and Glory. There's also a Paul Roma figure to finish your Power and Glory set. But Hercules Hernandez, the black trunks, the beard, the look he had in Mid-South. What do you think of the figure?
Yeah, the chain, the look he had in Mid-South besides the t-shirt. But boy, you sent me one of those, and I do appreciate it, because now I've got I can't say a shelf because I have no more shelves left, but I have part of a shelf where I've got books and I got some space on the end. I'm starting to prop up all the figures of guys that I'm getting now that I actually managed during my career that I have not had figures of before or representations of or whatever. And Hercules is there proudly because I loved that fucking guy. And what an athlete he was. But no, these things are cool. And, you know, it's an what's the word I'm searching for? An underrepresented era that some of these guys are coming from, where the company wasn't doing land office business on merchandise, or just these guys, in some cases, like the Mantar figures we talked about, they may have slipped underneath the surface or between the cracks or down the drain, or however it's fucking phrased.
You know what it is specifically with the Hasbro figures, and these are obviously Hasbro style figures. If you look at like 1990 when they first came out, they were Demolition, the Twin Towers, Andre, Rick Rude, Hogan, Savage, DiBiase, Jake, Brutus Beefcake, maybe Andre. But there were a lot of guys that weren't in that. And then when the second group came out, it was some of the other top guys that were there at the time, Dusty, a few other people. But there was still a ton of guys not included. There was never a Hercules Hernandez in the line.
Well, yeah, because, you know, think about
or Hercules
this.
At that time, not even Hercules Hernandez.
Yeah, and think, if Vince had 50 guys under contract because he was running 2 and 3 shows or whatever, but they only did a line of, 8 figures at a time, and then 8 more would come out. And by the time they do another one, that guy is left and gone somewhere else. They do more without it. Some people, and we've talked about it, how the Midnight Express never really got figures when they were on top and popular, where things would have sold. It was after the fact and not done on any widespread basis until mine came out at JimCornette.com. Cornette's Collectibles, the Midnight Express and Heavenly Bodies action figures are available. But some of these guys, as we said, underrepresented, never. That was one of the main reasons I wanted to do these Midnight Express figures, as we talked about before, is so many of the guys didn't get any money from their own merchandise. Either they weren't sold as they should have been, or they got jacked around and didn't get their rightful due on it. The Midnight Express have been and are from these, and these new retro figures have gone through the various families or estates or whatever, so at least the guys are finally getting something.
On that topic, and slightly going away from wrestling, but part of the Zombie Sailor figure line, and talking about estates, I sent you one of these, the new Bruce Lee action figure.
Yes!
And I'm curious, because you are a Bruce Lee fan, did you ever feel like when you were, young and a fan of his, that there was ever proper merchandise? I mean, there was never an action figure for you to get, was there?
No, there was never an action figure. And I lived through the Bruce Lee craze, the heyday, the movies, Enter the Dragon, and then his death, and the iconic status that was awarded him afterwards. And there were special magazines all over the newsstands, and you could get Bruce Lee wall posters and Bruce Lee, kung fu courses. And did I mention tons of commemorative magazines? Never an action figure that I ever saw. And this one has him in the stance and has the bloody claw prints from the fucking mirror room scene, right?
That's right.
So this one, so this is a cool one, but no, they didn't. You had everything else but, like I said, the videos, when video became a thing, home video, videos of the movies, drive-ins would do, quadruple features, everything that you could exploit about Bruce Lee, except an action figure.
Well, again, that's in the Hasbro style, and sticking on the topic of Hasbro style figures.
And as opposed to the ones in AEW they're doing now, which are in the has-been style.
Well, this is the newest one from Figure Collections Wrestle Something Wrestlers line, again, the Hasbro style. The brand new referee Mike Chioda action figure. It comes with 3 replaceable hands, of course, with different fingers up so you could properly count in the photos you're taking with the figure.
Yeah, if I know Kyoto, one finger would specifically be up.
According to the back of this, from Willingboro, New Jersey, made his TV debut in 1989. He has been the 3rd man in the ring ever since. From then until 2021, he called some of the most legendary and iconic matches in pro wrestling history. Again, this is from Figure Collections and the Wrestle Something Wrestlers. What are your thoughts on referee action figures? Is it a necessity? And Mike Chioda.
Well, you got to have the referee if you're going to have 2 wrestlers wrestle, right? You got to have a referee. And Chioda, again, like I never had a crossword with Mike Chioda. He's a fun guy, nice guy. He was there to show up and do his shit. And the referees in those days, except for Earl Hebner and Timmy White, who had attained some level of status and seniority, all the referees, and it wasn't just Chioda, it was there was Jack Doan and Tony Chimmel, even though he was a ring announcer. They all had to work on the ring crew also. When I first got there, I was like stunned that all of the referees were also the ring crew guys, so they had to ride in the truck. They had to get there early, set all that shit up, and didn't get dressed. I'm like, holy fuck. But no wonder they had Hebner or they had Timmy White to do the main events so they could spend a little more time with, concentrating on their match and what was going to go on if it was a pay-per-view TV or whatever. But the referees, they got their money's worth out of them. But Chioda, very nice guy. I'm glad to see he got memorialized in plastic.
Well, sticking on the topic, and let me just mention also, because I have them here, Figure Collections just put out guardrails for anyone who needs guardrails for their photos. But, Jim, I have here from the Hastel Toys Grapplers and Gimmicks line. You talk about wrestlers missing from those sets of the late 80s, early 90s figures. The fabulous Rougeau brothers, Jacques and Raymond. What do you think the finishing maneuvers for each one of these competitors is?
Oh, now they've got an individual finishing maneuver rather than a tag team.
Each of them have their own finisher.
The French flop and fly.
Oh.
And the Paris Peace Accord.
Jacques has the Montreal Masher. And of course, Raymond with the Rougeau Rage.
I think mine were better, weren't they?
I think so. Maybe I would give Jacques Rougeau Rage. He's the one who took Dynamite's teeth out.
Maybe when the Eddie Auger figures come out, they'll modify those.
Well, that's a different toy line. We'll see what happens there. Jim, the Rougeau brothers, again, a team that I don't think you ever would have interacted with. You were around Jacques Rougeau earlier than that, but did you see the stuff with them in Montreal and the Garvins as it happened? And any thoughts on them? Did you ever watch them as baby faces or heels in WWF?
Yes. Well, I'd known Jacques Rougeau, and we've talked about it since he came to Memphis in, what was that, 1980? It was 82, wasn't it? Yeah, 1982. He came down as a baby face, and he was French-Canadian in Tennessee, so that was goddamn stranger in paradise. And so they quickly turned him heel because he was... we've talked about it. I mean, this is not even an insult. French Canadian people, many of them have a way of talking or coming off to Americans, especially Americans that aren't used to dealing with French Canadian people, where they're fucking assholes. And Jacques was not getting over as a babyface, but boy, he was a natural heel. He was a French Logan Paul. Ray Rougeau, I worked with more when I got to the WWF in the 90s because he was still doing French language commentary and would do some work, around the Canadian events that DeMarco was running and et cetera. So Raymond, very nice guy and the more calm of the two brothers. But he was in the boxing match we did in Montreal, Owen against Raymond Rougeau, where he had George Chuvalo in his corner. So that was fun. But no, the Rougeaus were a good tag team. And I always enjoyed them more as heels, but they they were more noted for being heels in the United States, but they were huge baby faces in Montreal. And what was that run with the Garvins, 85 or 86?
I believe it went into 86. I believe 86.
So, but the point is Ronnie and Jimmy, because Ronnie's French-Canadian, and Jimmy is not a blood relative, so he's old-fashioned American, but they were able to be the heels and face the Rougeaus in Montreal. And one thing about Montreal, and we've seen it with the Rougeaus, we've seen it with the Ledukes, we've seen it with Kevin Owens, Kevin Steen, they support whoever the local wrestling hero is. And Jacques in modern days has drawn some incredible size houses on indie shows in Montreal, but they were, what was it, the promotion? Was that All-Star Wrestling at the time, or what was?
International?
International. They were drawing 15,000 people and up to the Forum in Montreal for those tag matches, right? And had a ton of heat.
And that's right when they made the deal with Vince, and the Rougeaus went there, King Tonga went there, Dino Bravo went there.
Yeah.
Everyone ended up working for Vince.
And the business in Montreal went to hell in a handbasket because he got all the stars. But they were drawing a tremendous amount of money, and that's when, it's all about time and place and angle. Because Montreal had not been doing well business-wise for a few years before that, but boom, it made an incredible comeback, and you had, that's what they need. That's the Montreal recipe, is to have really strong local French-Canadian babyface and then a heel that either is, maybe in Ronnie's case, French-Canadian, but also just heels that work well with those baby faces, and you can draw money, or you could. I don't know if you can do anything anymore. But there you have it.
Well, there you have it. One more figure I want to quickly mention, because we'll have more about these in future installments of this, because it appears there's a competition going on between the Randy Savage estate and the Davey Boy Smith estate. Who can get the most stuff out? But we have here from Hastel Toys, gimmicks, I did it again, grapplers and gimmicks, Davey Boy Smith 97. For anyone looking for a Heart Foundation Davey Boy Smith. Davey Boy Smith 97. We'll talk more about Davey Boy in future weeks. One last Hasbro-style figure from KWK Kayfabe Heroes, our friend Sean Ing. This is the brand new Comet Kid figure, a.k.a. Max Moon.
Oh my gosh.
Tom Boric, a.k.a. Paul Diamond, from outer space. Born May 11th, 1961, from outer space, Tom Boric. And it has some.
Well, wait a minute. That's across the international date line if it's in outer space. So how do we know what day it actually was?
I'm not exactly sure.
Is that Eastern time?
But we talk about filling out your collection. Here's a character that briefly appeared in 92 and 93, played first by Conan, I guess developed by Conan and Vince, and then they fell out, and Vince gave the gimmick to Paul Diamond, who had been Kato in the Orient Express under a mask. He became the Comet Kid, a.k.a. Max Moon. Any memories of Max Moon?
I wonder how many driver's licenses Paul Diamond had. And he wasn't even the original Paul Diamond. There was a Paul Diamond wrestler in the 60s that was good-looking, a bodybuilder type. The way that he got to be Kato in the Orient Express was because Paul Diamond and Pat Tanaka were a tag team called Bad Company with 2 Ds, B-A-D-D, Bad Company. And they worked for Vern in the AWA, right? And they did, I think they had a run down in Continental in Alabama. This was mid to late 80s. Might have gone to Memphis for a while. I believe they did. And
yes,
they were a good tag team. And as a matter of fact, when the Midnight Express and I took that time off from WCW in 89, we quit because of George Scott, and then he got fired and finished up before we did. We took the 2 months off. One of the matches that we had was for a promoter named Joe Pizza, because his last name was Italian and you couldn't pronounce it. So everybody called him Joe Pizza, up in Northeast Ohio. It's around Akron, Canton, thereabouts. And it was the Midnight Express from the NWA versus Diamond and Tanaka Bad Company from the AWA. And Dr. Mark Curtis was their manager.
No way.
Yes, because it was really close to Pittsburgh, and Brian worked for Joe Pizza on a lot of his shows, so he's the one that kind of put it together, because he had called me and said, hey, this guy Joe Pizza wants to bring you all in to work with Bad Company. And I'm like, okay, so Brian set it up, so naturally he put him in the corner, and we had fun. I think I've got a tape of it around here somewhere. It's the only time we ever had a match with him. But point is, when they got to the WWF, I think it's another one of Vince's things. Well, why is one of them not Japanese? Well, because one's Japanese, one's not. They're bad. Well, let's make them the Orient Express. Put a fucking mask on the guy. Nobody will be able to tell.
Well, remember, he replaced Akio Sato, who retired. Originally, it was Sato and Tanaka, and then Sato retired, and it became Kato and Tanaka.
Well, how the heck did they get Tanaka away from Diamond to put him with Sato when Sato was on the verge of retiring at that point?
Money.
Well, nevertheless, anyway, you had the team of Bad Company suddenly became the Orient Express, and they weren't able to do as much as they did in other places up there. Let's put it that way. But Daimo was a nice guy, but he, like I said, he had 18,000 names.
How good was Pat Tanaka?
Very good. Very good worker. His drawback was he was so small, and now that wouldn't have been. He was short as well as small. It wouldn't have been a big as drawback now as it was then, but he was a really good worker.
All right, one last thing in the Hasbro realm I want to mention, because this is one of the coolest things, and I love what these guys put out. Recollect Retro Creations, W-R-E Collect Retro Creations, the Piper's Pit playset. For your action figures, you could have the blue background or the tan background. It has the wallpaper and the little desk. These guys put out a bunch of cool stuff. Check them out, recollect. Jim, another figure I just got from Japan. From Bandai, the Great Muta Poison Mist Spray Series. It's the Great Muta in red, and it has 2 replaceable heads. One of them is just a stationary Muta head. The other one, do I have it here?
The Muta in red. The ladies go crazy for the Muta in red.
The other one, I lost the other Muta head because I was so disappointed. The other one has a little capsule where you can insert a liquid and open its mouth, and it's supposed to spray out a mist. However, from my experience with this so far, there's no spray. It's just a direct water shot like a water gun, which is not what Muta did.
Well, I think you should be able to, you should kind of press down on top of the head. It's like a Pez dispenser. Just go.
So this is the, you can check this out from Bandai, the Great Muta Poison
what do you
Mist.
think the estate of the Great Kabuki? The Great Kabuki. What do you think his estate is going to say about this? Don't they need to share some kind of trademark?
Actually, from what I understand, and I probably shouldn't say too much, there's a Great Kabuki figure in the works right now. That'll be coming out, but yeah, I have.
But is it going to spray the mist, brother?
Well, this one doesn't spray the mist; it just shoots out liquid. It shoots out water right at my face.
Well, it's not supposed to be water. It's supposed to be red liquid or green liquid or whatever.
I had to test it out with something just to see if it works first.
Well, see, you're not using the right thing. Get the food coloring. Because, you know, when he shoot the red, it's bad. When he shoot the green, it's bad. But when he shoot the black, the shit's on, brother.
Jim, from A24, I have the brand new Zac Efron as Kevin Von Erich action figure. From the Iron Claw, it is Zac Efron in Kevin Von Erich's famed yellow trunks with his blue jacket with yellow trim and no shoes to make it look authentic. Looks just like Kevin Von Erich, except for looking like Zac Efron.
Except it looks nothing like Kevin Von Erich.
What are your thoughts on action figures from movies of people playing real-life characters who need a good updated action figure?
That's a lot of degrees of separation there. An action figure of a guy playing a guy who's playing a... I don't know about that one. I think, but maybe what they could do, I'm thinking, because I saw Kevin the other day when he was on the television from Dallas, on AEW. Do you think they could save plastic if the companies got together and they just with different clothes on, they marketed the same figure for Gary Busey and Kevin Von Erich?
Oh, come on. It wasn't like that. You thought he looked like Gary Busey?
Well, there's starting to be a little resemblance now as they age.
I don't know about that, but the new Kevin Von Erich, or Zac Efron as Kevin Von Erich action figure.
Zac Eric Efron.
Available nowhere except for our website.
Zac Eric Von Efron. That's what it is.
Jim, one last figure here.
You keep saying that.
This is from the Monday Night War WWE Mattel line, WWE versus WCW. Each figure has a specific date applied to it. This figure from Raw, May 12th, 1997, is Rob Van Dam. Thanks to Jerry the King Lawler, Rob Van Dam left ECW for WWE, declaring the promotion too low budget to handle his extreme talents, and showed why he's Mr. Monday Night.
And thanks to Jerry Lawler. Was that what they did on television?
That's
I can't even remember.
TV. Jerry Lawler
okay, yeah, I guarantee you, Jerry Lawler really had no fucking connection whatsoever in giving anybody in ECW a job.
Also in this line, there's a Build-A-Figure where every figure comes with a part for another figure you could build. This one has the Disciple, Ed Leslie as the Disciple in the NWO.
Did it have an extra brain or an extra face?
One of his less well-remembered gimmicks, but he was jacked to the tits at that time. Rob Van Dam coming to Raw. What do you remember about the Raw, May 12th, 97? I'm assuming that may be the Raw at the Manhattan Center, but...
No, hold on now. The Raw at the Manhattan Center was earlier in the year. I thought that's where they... That's not
it was before the pay-per-view. That's right.
Yeah, that's right. Not where Van Dam debuted and began working for the WWF. As a matter of fact, that was the time where he didn't even work for the WWF. They were there, but Paul E was playing some kind of psychosexual game. And Sabu and Van Dam were out in a fucking trailer. Paul was bringing the messages back and forth because nobody was happy about their finishes. Van Dam came in full-time later on. That wasn't a red letter day for me. I have no recollection of that. I was probably there. Where was it?
It did not say. Did it say? Hold on.
I could go find my book and probably tell you, but I don't feel like standing up and risking
It does not say. It does not say, but that was the retro figure rundown this week. Jim, on the topic of figures, let the listeners know where they can get the final Jim Cornette variant that you could have so much fun with and draw all over and mark
come
up.
on.
Where can they get it today?
That's right. The final Jim Cornette action figure Deviant cannot be gotten today, but it can be seen today at jimcornette.com. And the holiday sale where it can be gotten starts on Saturday, October 5th at noon Eastern Time. The Man in White variant, you get it for half price with any of the tag team sets. The thank you, fuck you, buy t-shirts are back, and all the various photos, DVDs, books, magazines, and more. JimCornette.com.
That's right, and with that, the drive-thru is closed. That was the original one. That's why it doesn't sound as nice as the pentatonic one.
Yeah, that was the original sour note that was ever struck.
All right, well, with that, the drive-thru is closed. Again, I already did this. Send in your songs, CornyDriveThru@gmail.com, as well as your questions. Don't forget the drive-thru and the experience wherever you find your favorite podcast on YouTube. Subscribe to the official Jim Cornette YouTube channel. Hear all the clips, the full episodes, the omnibus collections with the Travis Heckel artwork, the popular artwork from George, and so much more. The official Jim Cornette YouTube channel. Don't forget, go through the archive, patreon.com/Cornette. $5 a month gets you access to the archive going back to 2013. Patreon.com/Cornette. Follow Jim on Twitter at @TheJimCornette. Follow me on Twitter at GreatBrianLast. Hear me on the 605 Superpodcast. And don't forget about the wrestling news each and every day coming to you. TheWrestlingNews.com directly, or wherever you find your favorite podcast. Cornette's Collectibles at JimCornette.com. What's going on, Jim?
I just said that a minute ago.
At JimCornette.com. The drive-thru is brought to you by the law office of Stephen Pinu, 877-50-STEVE. Get even with Stephen, newlawoffice.com. But until the experience in a few days and next week right back here on the drive-thru for Jim Cornette, I'm the great Brian Last. Tally-ho!
How?